Well, and good morning. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. Stan is here. He's getting situated. We got a lot to do on a Friday edition of the program coming up in a bit. We will, of course, it's Friday, so we'll check in with our buddy Bo Smolka, PressBox Ravens beat writer. Learn a little bit more about the Colts and also talk some Ravens with one of our favorites, of course, former Ravens defensive coordinator and Colts head coach, Mr. Chuck Pagano. Will join us a little bit later on in the program. He is still involved television-wise on Wish TV in Indianapolis. Although I think he's living in Idaho, if I remember correctly from the last time we talked. He's doing the magic of technology to be involved in television in Indianapolis. And then also this morning, the Hall of Famer, James Lofton, is going to join us. He's on the call for Ravens-Colts Sunday on CBS. So we will catch up with him, get his thoughts on what he's seen from the Ravens offensively so far. All that coming up on the program this morning. Today's show brought to you by the Baltimore County Police Department. They have a hiring event coming up Saturday, October 28th at the Public Safety Building, 700 East Joppa Road in Towson. You can complete just about every layer of the process if you are interested in joining the Baltimore County Police Department. Written test, agility test, all of the application process. Plus, if you want to just learn more about the opportunities that you might have in the Baltimore County Police Department, members of the various specialized units will be there in attendance to try to inform you a little bit more about what you could do with the Baltimore County Police Department. And it's also a community event, so it's a trunk or treat. You can bring out your kids. Not only can they get candy, but it's something that we talk about. It's an opportunity to kind of create relationships in places where maybe there hasn't been a lot of trust with the police departments over the years. So it's an opportunity for you to interact with the Baltimore County Police Department, to learn about them, what they're all about, talk with them, talk through some of the issues that you may have with policing. That's why these events exist. It's for hiring. It's also for community gathering. Find out more by calling 410-887-4584 or going to joinbaltimorecountypd.com.
Is there any way with your connections with them that they could waive the agility test?
Oh, for someone like is this
me.
your moment? Have you been thinking about this for some
Thinking
time?
about it for a long time.
You know, over here, you're looking at someone who I believe got the greatest score in the history of the agility test for the Baltimore County Police Department.
Really?
Flying
That's what they said?
colors.
Wow.
Flying
So could there
colors.
be like an average, like for media?
Oh,
people?
you don't have to get to my level.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I aced it. I showed up there and they were
Hey,
raving about it.
So they'd pass me with like a 0
I don't know if
agility?
0 would be the number that we're looking for. Yeah, I got a standing ovation as I was. Plus, I was barely awake. It was like 7 in the morning.
They don't expect
That's
anyone.
why you were able to pass.
That's the only reason, right? If my body didn't know any better than to shut down in the middle of it. Actually, it was funny because when they told me what I was doing, I heard 1 mile run in 13 minutes. I'm like, who can't run a mile in 13 minutes? And then I got there, and it was 1.5 miles in 13 minutes. And I said,
That's how they get you to show
well,
up.
I'm pretty sure I can do that, but I'm not certain. And then I got to be honest with you, and I felt this way. The people that were there that wanted to be police officers were not finishing their 1.5 mile run in 13 minutes. And I said to myself, I didn't train for this. This is not a good sign if you're looking to become a police officer that you're not able to accomplish that. But that's what you need to know going in. And look, honest to God, if I can do it, seriously, look at me. If I can do it, you can do it. I promise you're capable of it. Stan, good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Griff.
Good to see you, Stan.
Obviously, it was not a good night in Cleveland for the Orioles. It was not a good day. You and I were all giddy as we were chatting yesterday because the Angels were leading late and blew that, and then the Orioles rallied late and then blew that.
Yep.
Losing 5-2, the lead in the AL East shrinks to 1.5 games as the Orioles continue their series in Cleveland this weekend.
But really 2.5.
I always say that half game counts. The tiebreaker counts as a half game.
Yeah,
exactly
but it's
right.
Really 2.
Yeah,
because
the tiebreaker.
Yeah,
exactly
the
right. I'm feeling a bunch of things about last night's game. It's sort of weird how this team, for as good as they are offensively, goes through these stretches like 15 innings and over 2 days where they don't score a run, and we all know what happened last week. But I think for the most part, we're all comfortable that the offense is probably not going to be the reason why the Orioles don't make a run towards the World Series this season. But I think now the conversation about the bullpen is getting louder and louder, and when we have it, it's important. I don't blame the bullpen specifically for the fact they lost to the last 2 games. They scored 1 run on Wednesday. Yesterday they scored 2. They've scored 3 total runs over 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't individually blame the bullpen for the fact that they've lost back-to-back games. But that was a game that they led late, and whether it was 1-0 or 7-6, you would like to be able to finish that off. Last night, that was a game that was 2-2, and frankly, you had one of your more consistent and more reliable relievers of late going into the game last night. I feel like there is growing concern that ultimately what will end up dooming this team, whenever it might be, will be the back end of the bullpen without Felix Bautista.
Yeah, it would appear that way, but really what's the undoing is the fact that, and I don't expect it to change, and that's why I still feel that Jack Flaherty may be the single most important arm that they have.
Obviously,
right
he looked really good earlier this week.
I didn't think he looked great this week, but the reason is because they continually have to cover 3 and 4 innings every night. Our starting pitching hasn't and probably won't go much longer than 5 or 6. But that is modern postseason
100%.
baseball. There are no Sandy Koufaxes, pitching on 3 days rest and throwing 135 pitches and shutting down the Twins. Everybody gets a good bit of rest, but the innings buildup or lack thereof of the Orioles is really, it's really the heart and soul of the problem, more than the fact that our bullpen arms aren't good. It's that they're so overtaxed. It's amazing.
I think they're somewhere on that spectrum. You're 100% right that they have been overburdened. There's no question about that. Again, how many of them I was confident in to begin with, right? It's disappointing that Coulomb has struggled of late because he was one that you were confident in going into this. I don't know how many more of them. I mean, DL Hall of late has been the one that you found confidence in.
A little bit, yeah.
Just because of his recent performances.
And they cannot afford to not have any confidence in Shintaro Fujinami. They've got to have some confidence in him, whether he inspires that confidence or not.
I don't know how they can. That's the difficult part about the conversation. They keep putting them in situations. They keep putting Jorge Lopez in close games, despite the fact that
he's not going to be available
in the postseason, obviously. Yeah. But of late, they've continued to try.
Do you know what's really an alarming thing that I see? And it was the same when Bautista was healthy. Bautista, Cano, and Lopez, and maybe just about everybody. They do such a poor job, our bullpen, at keeping base runners close.
They just
a fact. Give them extra bases between pass balls, wild pitches, and obliviousness. Is that a word?
Yeah, sure, and particularly slow deliveries.
It's just you have to, like last night. I forget who it was that ran.
Naylor, right?
Naylor,
yeah.
Right. Was this Bo Naylor or Josh?
I think
Naylor?
It was Josh Naylor. Well, wait, no, because it was Bo Naylor. Yeah, it was Bo Naylor because it was that.
Both Naylors.
Yes.
Both Naylors. The heavy set.
Oh, it was Josh. Okay.
Both of them run a fair amount.
Mm-hmm.
The Orioles must know that in a scouting report, and yet there was no. The pitcher has the right.
And it's a lefty who's looking at him.
I know.
Right.
It's just terrible, and I guarantee you right now, if the Orioles do get on the run that we hope they are, the Atlanta Braves know that and will take advantage of it at every turn late in ball games.
It's a twofold situation because we would say these are problems in hindsight. This is why I think a lot of us were screaming about the bullpen at the deadline, despite the fact that we felt so good about Felix Bautista. It was you needed, to your point about the postseason, even the teams that have the best starting pitching are going and pulling their pitchers when they get in trouble in the 5th inning. Like,
Right.
that's the way
starters don't go more than 4 2/3 to 5 2/3.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, when you're in trouble in the middle of the game, you're gone.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing that jumped out at me, is that you needed leverage arms. You needed arms that you're going to put in those spots that you could count on with run. Tell me who it is that when,
Shintaro was an interesting gamble that, for the most part, we've seen the upside in him, but now all of a sudden we're being re-exposed to his negativity. But there was nobody else that they picked up, and we were yelling about this before Bautista got
100%.
hurt. And now that he's hurt, it's just they picked up Lopez, which was an interesting for nothing.
No, I wasn't opposed to it by any stretch of the imagination.
And I have no problem with him reestablishing himself somewhat next year with us, and I think he will, given the uncertainty with Bautista. But I was shouting that we needed 2 arms in that bullpen, and one of them's been DL Hall to a certain extent, and Fujinami was the other. But aside from that, you've got Baumann and Baker are on fumes at this point. They don't look nearly.
They clearly have no trust in Tyler Wells, like none.
Well, I can't believe he's healthy enough for them to have any trust in him.
They brought up, I guess Brandon High brought up yesterday that he's back up to 95, and so he still won't rule out Tyler Wells being in the mix. But the clock, you're running out of time at this point.
Yeah.
How much faith can you build up in Tyler Wells? It's been brought up. They might need to make a move just to get another pitcher on the team today,
right?
Just to have somebody else.
Joey Crable, probably.
At this point, is Crable still on the 40-man? I don't know if Crable's still on the. I thought he might have gone off the 40-man. I thought I read that the only options on the 40-man at this point are Zimmerman and Wells.
Okay.
And obviously Zimmerman's not going to inspire any confidence in anyone.
Not great confidence.
Frankly, they could probably move Zimmerman off the 40-man at this point if they wanted
Zimmerman,
to put
Wells, and Irvin, but I guess they optioned him less than
15
days
so they
ago.
wouldn't. Oh, maybe that was the Crable problem, is he hasn't been 15 days too. Maybe is Crable still on the 40-man and he just hasn't.
Yes,
but it's
Crable
a 15-day situation with him, so it couldn't. The only options they would have today, if they needed a pitcher in Cleveland, would be Zimmerman and Wells.
Because then Vespi and Baker are also on the 40-man, but they were
definitely did not reach 15 days
and
either.
who didn't pitch last night? Cano did not pitch last night.
No. Hang on.
Fuji did not pitch.
No, Fuji did not pitch last night either. Flaherty didn't pitch, but he pitched 2 innings on
Tuesday.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he did that on 3 days rest, so maybe.
I think he could be used tonight.
It's possible.
They've got to figure out how to take advantage of the limited skills he's exhibited right now, and I was pretty impressed with him out of the bullpen. I mean, he's got a really nice curveball, and the fact when he's only pitching 1 or 2 innings, he can max out a little bit more.
Sure.
So I think he becomes a vitally important person over the next 30, 40 days.
I don't disagree with that. The other storyline last night was Grayson Rodriguez. They moved him to normal rest and let him pitch on a 5th day. And as Griffin and I talked about with a few people this week, it wasn't just that he was on the 6-man rotation. It's that typically there was also an off day in there because they were having off days when they were playing 2 series. So it was like they went from 7 days to 5 days for Grayson Rodriguez after his longest start. I can't – these are the 2 things that are true. He pitched on the shortest rest that he's pitched on, and he wasn't very good. What I can't say with certainty is that because he pitched on the shortest stretch that he pitched on, that's why he wasn't very good.
The way I saw last night's performance by him is I think he was so amped up in the home game against Tampa. That was a game that he raised his level of performance as high as it can be. And I think pitching against Cleveland on a Thursday night before 6,000 people or 4,000, I don't think he was as amped up, And given that he wasn't, I thought it was really a pretty decent performance. But again, short because he
was spending a lot of pitches. Right. That to me is why I say it wasn't. to the point of he battled, he kept them in the game, right? Like on a worse day scenario.
We did not get his A effort.
That's where I'm at.
And he was A+ Saturday night against Tampa.
And I feel like we're trying to judge him now through a different prism of what we're hoping that Grayson Rodriguez can be, and what they were what A.J. Przinsky was talking about, which is you feel like maybe you've stolen a playoff ace once upon a time, the way that Matt Moore was that for Tampa out of nowhere that one year, that you were hoping that's the case. And I'm just not. I feel all the confidence in the world about what Grayson Rodriguez is going to be. I genuinely believe that we've seen enough to think that is possible for Grayson Rodriguez. But to feel confidence about that for a guy who has blown way past his career high in innings this season, I'm not sure that I can feel confidence about it or say I want him to start game 1 or game 2 of a playoff series versus, given the way he looked on short rest, maybe he is the 4th starter for a playoff series. Maybe he's someone that, like, if they do avoid the wild card series and they are playing in the ALDS, you almost hope that you close that DS out in 3 games and you don't have to pitch him and you can now turn around and save him and get him even a little bit more rest and skip another start in the process.
Right. It's interesting. I wrote this column about that last Saturday night,
and I felt
it changed everything.
I felt a lot of the things you were feeling.
I still think in a 5-game series, I don't know that you aren't. I don't know that your chances to win that series would not be better with Grayson Rodriguez pitching out of the bullpen.
So you're
talking about.
I know you have long been someone who is committed to Kyle Gibson more than everybody else in town is committed to Kyle Gibson.
Yeah, of course. I see the warts of Kyle Gibson, but I think his experience and I think the fact that in a 5-game series, Grayson has the ability as a starter to impact 1 game, whereas as a relief pitcher, he could impact 2, perhaps 3 games.
So if you were drawing up a rotation right now, let's just say that they right the ship, and by like Tuesday of next week, they've clinched the division.
And the second series would be a 5-game series.
The division series, yes, would be a 5-game series.
Yeah.
So let's say that they have time. And by the way, frankly, even if they have to go to next Sunday, because they wouldn't have to play in the wild card round, they would have the ability to set their rotation.
Correct.
So even if it takes them all the way through next Sunday to clinch the AL East,
right,
they would still have the ability to set their rotation going into a division series because they wouldn't have to play in that first series. So as long as they're doing that and they're not playing in the wild card series, how would you set the rotation for a potential division series?
I would probably set it, and I have to say this with not seeing Means what he's going to be the next couple starts, is I would probably start Bradish game 1. I would probably stick with the order: Kramer number 2, Gibson number 3, and Rodriguez number 4, or go to Means perhaps for 4, and keep Grayson, give Grayson the ability to impact multiple games in the series.
I am.
I don't think there's a chance in hell that that's the way they're thinking, but that's what I'm.
Well, I've struggled because look, Orioles fans certainly are not. Orioles fans have no interest in seeing Kyle Gibson start a playoff game. But I know the things that you've brought up throughout the course of the year, and there have definitely been Kyle Gibson moments, and you could make a Joe Saunders-esque argument for Kyle Gibson that even if his numbers aren't good, even if he hasn't...
He's still won 14 to 15 games, which is more than the rest of the starting.
Yes. I don't know that you can count on that type of run support when you get to the playoffs and you're facing, a high-level pitcher on the other side. But
again, that's a high-level pitcher that's going to pitch.
Going to get
4
pulled.
He's going to get pulled.
I understand that too.
And that's the only thing that I think that Tampa and Houston have over the Orioles right now is I trust the length of their bullpens. I trust a lot more than the length of our bullpen. And what changes that? DL Hall's very important. Flaherty's very important. And I'm saying maybe in that first series, Rodriguez out of the bullpen would make some sense to me.
The funny part is I feel like Means has been the guy that people have talked about in that capacity to say, if you're worried about what he could give you anyway, then why not just put him in the bullpen and have the ability for him to impact multiple games if you don't believe.
I just don't know that he's going to me, with what he's coming back from, I know you could make the argument that he's actually very fresh because he's only thrown 50 innings or something like that. But my gut feeling tells me that at least in multiple games, I don't know that he's able to pitch in game 1 and game 3 in a short series, whereas I think Grayson could, perhaps.
I understand that argument. I would also say that like his stuff isn't so overwhelming that it could impact. Like if your argument for Grayson is, then he
I
could
think
come
he's
in,
a real weapon.
right? Then
out
he
of the
could come
bullpen.
in a situation and throw 100 miles an hour and not have to worry about like ramping down. That he can just let it all rip in that spot. Yeah. That has some value that you can't get from using John Means
say
out of the
game
bullpen.
1 is against the Twins, right? Is that who we would most likely?
No, they would be the 3 seed no matter what. So at the moment, it would be more likely that it'd be the 4 or the 5.
It would be Tampa or
Toronto. Or
Tampa
Houston,
or Toronto.
It could really
say
be
you get a 3-0 lead.
Yeah, it is very difficult to figure out right now because everybody's record is about the same.
Say you get a 3 or 4-0 lead early somehow, and all of a sudden, one of the starting pitchers, whomever it is, just blows a tire in the 3rd or 4th inning. Who do I trust that could get us to the 6th inning? And it boils down to 2 people. It'd be Flaherty or Grayson Rodriguez. Or maybe Kyle Gibson,
I think
Boy.
Yeah.
Boy, of that group, right? Like I think everybody would say, well, I've the most confidence in Grayson. But to the point, that's limiting the ability to put out Grayson and hope that he can deliver after you saw what you saw last Saturday, the hope would be, well, that if you're facing the Rays again in the playoffs, you would want to have Grayson Rodriguez go out there and try to shut them down and just simply steal a game with a spectacular starting performance. But right now, I just need them to score some runs.
Yeah.
Right now, just go score some
help.
runs. Did you understand why Jorge? Did we get an answer why they went to Urias as a pinch runner instead of Jorge Mateo last night?
No.
Didn't get that even a little bit.
That was
Did
for
not understand
Kerstad.
that.
Wait, no.
Oh, yeah. Kerstad led off the inning, was a pinch hitter, and then they pulled him for Urias as the pinch runner.
It was okay. So it was because he was pinch hitting for Westberg, I guess.
But
so you can
so
just
what?
slot Urias in easily, but you can move Gunner and.
Now look, I get it. He ended up scoring, so
right,
no big deal. But it was just bloody confusing to me. I could not understand what is.
And is Kerstad that slow that Urias is a much better?
I mean,
because Urias, in my opinion, is not
a great base runner.
Not a great base runner.
Well, he certainly wasn't last night.
Yeah.
I mean, he should have been home on the double and didn't. I couldn't figure it out.
Let me ask you something about the double, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get a good look at that? It sure as hell I looked both the first time
That
I
you
saw
thought it was a home
replay.
run?
I thought it hit the yellow line.
I
thought it was worth a challenge, but I have to admit, I'm like looking at that wall, and there's so
because
much
the
writing
lights
and lighting.
Yeah, right. It was very difficult.
I couldn't tell where it hit, but the way it bounced made me think I was right that it hit the very top, which is the yellow line, and bounded. Remember how high it bounded? So.
For what it's worth, when I was watching it live, I didn't think that, but I wasn't paying close attention afterwards.
I was not paying attention. God, the camera work on that play was
terrible.
Awful.
Terrible.
I never had the sense of where the ball was.
Not at all.
And then they just kind of zoomed in on the left fielder, and it bounded past the center fielder. But on the replay, the second replay, I sort of really tried to pay attention, and boy, I could swear it hit the top yellow line.
We will get Griffin. We will assign that to Griffin to try to do some work, and
look
then
up all
we'll
the camera angles
figure out if we can get an answer. Although I guess technically, again, Rutschman scored anyway too, so it wouldn't have made a difference in the end. But it is what it is. It is, that's the reality. They lost 5-2. They got to turn around. They got to get things going. Who does Tampa play? Oh, Toronto, right? So
yes, Toronto in Tampa.
And Toronto desperately needs those games.
So that's maybe a little bit better news that they don't get to face the Angels again this weekend. They don't get to face another kind of moribund team. this weekend. They have to face a team that's trying and is going for it, and so you hope that you can get a little bit of help there. It'd be nice if this magic number could shrink down to like 3 or 2
Is
by the end of the
Toronto
weekend.
in front of Seattle right now?
I was just looking at it. They're all like literally within like a game or two.
Yeah.
All three teams in the AL West are within a half game of each other, and then the Blue Jays.
Right now, here's what it looks like right now.
Right.
Toronto has a half-game lead
Over Seattle
over Seattle and Texas.
and Texas. They're tied,
but that's
right?
only because they played one more game.
Right, and it's really cool because doesn't Seattle play Texas?
This week, yes. They
Yes.
play this. Seattle and Texas play
3
each other
games.
this weekend, correct. Yeah, pretty exciting
what a
little
series.
So
yeah,
Houston
right?
and Toronto have the same exact record, and then Seattle and Texas have the same exact record,
And-
and they're a half game behind.
And
Yes.
who's Houston got this weekend?
Kansas City.
Yeah.
Kansas,
Yeah. So
course
an
they do.
opportunity there. For
Kansas
them
City
to-
beat them 2 out of 3 last week.
Oh, that's
in-
right.
in
Yeah,
Kansas City,
that's
I
right. But again, to be clear, the only team that could, if the Orioles win the division, they're going to be the 1 seed.
Right.
There's a 10-game separation there.
Yeah.
It's the 1 seed or you're the first wild card.
Mhm.
It's one or the other.
They've clinched a better record than every team in the American League except
for Tampa.
except for
Exactly
the
right.
Braves.
Exactly right. I mean, at this point, they could win. And by the way, they could still win 100 games and still not win the AL East.
So give me Tampa. I know is playing Toronto right now, and they play Toronto next weekend. But who do they play
In between,
in between?
they
knew
play
this the
Boston.
other day.
2
Yeah.
games.
Boston.
2 games in Boston
In
on
Boston.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
So they close on the road.
Yes,
2 in Boston.
home against the Blue Jays, 2 in Boston, and then they close on the road in Toronto. All right. Hopefully the Orioles get some runs scored this weekend.
Who's,
that would be
who's picked? It's Kramer against who tonight?
Shane Bieber.
Shane
Yeah, that's
Bieber
right. They're
coming
bringing Shane
back for-
Bieber
hasn't
back.
pitched
That's
since
right.
July the 9th.
bringing Shane Bieber back to look at him this weekend. Means and Quantrill on Saturday. Gibson and who will it be on Sunday for Cleveland? I don't have their roster resource up to be able to check that because they haven't announced who it's going to be.
Fangraph says it's Gavin Williams.
Okay. That would be the pitching matchups for the weekend. All right. Today's show brought to you by Superbook, and you can use either of these codes, Glenn Clark 23 or Stan Charles 23, when you sign up at Superbook.com or download the
And what do you
Superbook app.
get if you use that promo
You'll
code?
get up to $250 in a same-day first bet match, win or lose. So let's make this abundantly clear. You sign up today. For example, you go to Superbook.com. You use that code, Glenn Clark 23, or that code, Stan Charles 23, and you want to say, bet the Baltimore Orioles to win the American League pennant. Currently sitting at plus 350 odds. So let's say you bet $100. That's your first bet. Is $100 on the Orioles to win the American League pennant. And you wake up in the late October, the Orioles have just swept the Astros in the ALCS. We are
Glenn was
losing our
there.
minds. Yeah, I'm there for games 1 and 2. I'm in for those. I don't know about now. Let's just make sure we get there, boys. Let's just make sure that happens. But you've now pocketed $350. But on top of that, you have another $100 worth of free bets for you to use moving forward to bet the Orioles in the World Series. Go sign up today. Glenn Clark 23, Stan Charles 23, Superbook.com, or download the Superbook app. Ravens-Colts on Sunday. We got a lot of Ravens-Colts coverage this morning. Coming up next, we preview the Ravens side of things. They are banged up. Who's going to play? Basically no one. Bo Smolka will explain it more when we come back in. It's Glenn Clark Radio. The Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring with competitive salaries, including for experienced police officers, starting salaries between over $68,000 and over $82,000 based on your prior service time, accepting up to 7 years of service times with only 6 weeks in the academy, minimum of 2 years prior experience. And police cadet starting salaries at over $32,000 must be between the ages of 18 and 20, but you can apply starting at 17 and a half. Must have a high school diploma or GED equivalent at the time of the hire, U.S. citizen at the time of the hire, and a valid driver's license. So if you have a passion for service and want a career for life, now is the time to join the Baltimore County Police Department. Call 410-887-5542 or visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
All aboard! The Orioles train keeps on moving, and it's ahead of schedule. The Birds are motoring towards a playoff run here in 2023 as their magic number keeps getting smaller and smaller. I'm Paul Valley, and you can find me along with Zach Goodman every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here on the Bat-Around. We'll navigate you through the playoff push as the Orioles look to put an exclamation point on what is turning out to be the best season of the last 40 years. So join us on the Orioles train, and let's enjoy the ride together right here on the Bat-Around.
Visit Harford County this fall. Celebrate arts across Harford September 15th through the 30th with dance, theater, music, and visual arts. September 29th through October 1st is the largest Italian festival in Maryland, featuring entertainment, cooking demonstrations, a bocce tournament, and family fun. If you're headed to the Maryland 5-Star, stay and play in Harford County. While you're there, enjoy the scenic views atop the King and Queen seats and experience pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and fall brews along their Harford Libation Trail. For more info, head to visitharford.com. Maryland open.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka dives into what's next for Lamar Jackson after receiving one of the biggest contracts in football history. Is Lamar ready to take the Ravens to the next level, now with a new offensive coordinator and new wide receivers? Also inside, we look at what new football coaches Brian Newberry and Pete Shinnick bring to Navy and Towson, respectively. And we meet players from the college football and soccer programs around the state. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Don't forget about Project Game Day after every Ravens game this season. It's kind of like this show, except Rita's also there, so I actually think it's pretty good. But hey, you're already here now, so why don't you go ahead and keep listening to GCR.
All right, back in here on GCR. Stan the Fan Charles is in studio with us here on a Friday edition of the program.
I'm not only on, I'm all set up now.
You're good,
I'm
right?
ready to
Everything.
go. I'm
Everything.
good to
We
go
can start
now.
the show now, is what you're saying. Stan, you didn't have a midweek show this week, but you got a really neat guest lined up for your show this coming Monday.
Yes, but I've got to change the time of
Ah.
that because of the Jewish holiday. I set up Dan Duquette for 7 o'clock with Ross and Luke and I. I got to go back and change it to 4 o'clock.
Okay.
3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. But ex-Oriole GM, who in a really a classy move, Mike Elias alluded to in the locker room right after, saying that this rebuild basically wouldn't have been able to go as fast had the cupboard been totally bare.
Mm-hmm. And look, we all know Dan Duquette responsible for many of the pieces that have helped lead the Orioles back to the playoffs, whether it's Santander or Mullins or Hayes,
Grayson Rodriguez,
D.L. Hall,
John Means.
Yep, 100%.
Ryan Mountcastle.
So that'll be fun. On Monday, he'll be talking with Stan, Ross, and Luke, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports.
And next Thursday morning, I'm going to have on somebody you're going to have on this show. I'm going to have Jeff Newman, of the
Maryland
Maryland
5-Star.
5-Star, the CEO, I believe it is, and Mike Hankin, who's very involved and on the committee. So we'll talk about that event coming up October 19th.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Through the 22nd.
Very good. Joining us now, as he does every Friday, he is our Baltimore Ravens beat writer here at PressBox. He's our friend Bo Smolka, and he's with us once again. Bo, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Good. How are you?
I'm quite well, sir. I would ask who's going to play on Sunday, but the answer anymore seems like nobody. Has there been any good news on the injury front for the Baltimore Ravens the last couple of days?
Well, I mean, no. I guess the answer would be no. The people that were out are still out, and it looks like they will stay out. So the Ronnie Stanley, Marlon Humphrey, Tyler Linderbaum, Marcus Williams, Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham hasn't practiced this week, so it doesn't look like he'll be playing. Justice Hill appears to be out with this foot injury, and that's interesting because he played. He played most of the game, but the Ravens have signed Kenyon Drake back to the practice squad, so I think there's a good chance they're going to take the field on Sunday with Gus Edwards, Melvin Gordon, and Kenyon Drake as the running backs. And the other issue is, Adafe Owe is probably not going to play. He hasn't practiced. So there's a lot of people out. And the other one is Ardarius Washington, who isn't on the injury report, but that's because he's on injured reserve. So if you were to look at August and say, who might play slot corner for the Ravens this fall, the most likely candidates would probably have been Pepe Williams, Marlon Humphrey, who could play inside in the slot, and Ardarius Washington, and all three of them are gone. So for this game at least. And so that's going to be an interesting one as well.
All that being said, Bo, they had a really excellent win last weekend, and that's the funny part about all of this. I want to talk about the offensive line because you and I haven't had a chance to chat since Sunday, and I don't like falling into the hyperbolic traps, but that might be the most remarkable performance I've ever seen from a Ravens offensive line. I would have to measure it against the day that Jamal Lewis ran for 296 yards, but given the circumstances, given who they were without, given the quality of the defensive front, to not allow a single sack, for Patrick McCary to not give up a single pressure to Trey Hendrickson, I can't stop talking about it. This was part of the reason we were concerned, and all of a sudden, like now this week, I'm not really concerned about the offensive line at all, despite the fact that Ronnie Stanley and Tyler Linderbaum won't be playing again.
I mean, let's face it. This is why they paid Patrick McCary what they paid him. I mean, it is not usual for a team to throw out a $15 million contract to a backup offensive lineman. It just isn't done. But they look at Patrick McCary as a starting caliber player. And I asked John Harbaugh on Monday, I said, was McCary in the running for the left guard job, or do you go to him and say, hey, we know you want to play, but by the way, we kind of don't want you to start because we want you ready to be going in anywhere. And he said it's kind of a blessing and a curse with McCary because they are in that situation. Now, they did say if none of the other left guard candidates had really stepped up, yeah, they might have dropped McCary in there. But in their mind, they want McCary to be exactly this, the guy that can come in and plug and play anywhere. And ironically, if Stanley hadn't gotten hurt, he probably would have plugged in at center. But now you lost both Stanley and Linderbaum. You lost two positions where McCary's really good at. And so Sam Mustipher had to drop in and play center, and he played really well. So, but I think Patrick McCary is one of the more underrated, unheralded players in the league. And there's not a lot of players quite like him, and he was exceptional in the game on Sunday.
Bo, you and I texted, and I can't remember what prompted us texting in the middle of the week last week. And I said, do we have a chance to win Sunday? And you said, Mike McDonald kind of has them
Bengals
figured
number.
out.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that he's figured out? I know you were right about that, but I can't put it into words. What does he have figured out about Joe Burrow and what their tendencies are?
It's interesting because, and I didn't go back and watch the game closely again like I often will do, but let's face it, and I wrote about this on after the game. I mean, I think it's been now 21 games the Bengals have played since the start of last year. In only 7 of them have they been held under 300 yards of offense. Mike McDonald has done it all 4 times he's faced them.
Wow.
And so he has them. I think he I think he does a good job of keeping Burrow out of rhythm. I think they mentioned Brandon Stevens and some of the other defensive backs mentioned how they were going to insist on being physical with those receivers at the line of scrimmage. And that can burn you because these guys can be physical right back and they can get open like we've seen when they played here a couple of years ago. But I thought they just locked up those receivers. Burrow, I don't think is fully healthy, which certainly helps, but that wasn't the case last year when they shut him down.
Yeah.
And I just think McDonald finds ways to get Burrow out of rhythm and get that passing game disrupted. But he's done it over and over again in his 2 years here.
He is PressBox Ravens beat writer Bo Smolka. He's with us here on GCR. Bo, let's come back. You mentioned what the backfield is likely to look like on Sunday. Presuming Justice Hill doesn't play, we kind of had this conversation, not with you because I wasn't here, but last week, where it made sense to me that we saw, a lot of both Edwards and Hill, and not just predominantly Edwards, because one of the things that we've known about Todd Monken offenses is they want to throw the ball to the backs, and that's not really Gus Edwards' role. So it seemed like they found this nice balance. But I don't know at this point. Like, are you really pulling Kenyon Drake in off the street and giving him a heavy dose of snaps off the practice squad in week 3 just because you want to have someone that you can throw the ball to a little bit more? Or do you think that it probably ends up being just really a heavy dose of Gus Edwards until at least Justice Hill is back on the field?
I think they'll cycle through Melvin Gordon too, but that was interesting because Gordon was bumped up from the practice squad as essentially the third running back last week, and then he didn't play it down.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they're not going to go Gus Edwards 100% of the backfield snaps. So either Gordon or Drake's going to cycle in there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen with both of them at some point. Drake was here last year. He knows the team. I know he wasn't with Monken, so this is different for him. But at least Harbaugh and some of the offensive staff know what they have with Drake. But it's going to have to be Gus Edwards and Gordon and/or Drake. Gus Edwards isn't going to be I don't see Gus Edwards being like a bellwether cow, 30, 25 carry guy. So I think they will cycle those others through.
And it'll be interesting to see how that works. You brought up the inside corner as well. Is it just Arthur Millette? Like that's the way it's going to be? And I don't even know what else they could do at this point.
I mean, I think they could, in theory, they could drop Kyle Hamilton down and play some slot like he did last year. But to do that, now you don't have Marcus Williams, so you got to plug someone in at safety. And that would honestly probably be Darryl Worley, who has been effectively converted from a cornerback to a safety this summer. So he's a backup at safety now. And so if you decide, if they have a big-sized guy like Pittman in the slot and they want Hamilton there against him, that they might drop Hamilton down there and put Worley at safety. Millette, I mean, he's got, quote, back experience at slot corner, but he hasn't played it down for this team yet. He's been a game-day scratch both games so far. They've effectively rotated, Brandon Stevens and then Darby and Rock Yassin. I don't know if they would slide one of those guys in and play all three of those corners together and leave Hamilton deep. I think those are things they've probably looked at all week. But I personally, I expect to see some of Hamilton down there.
Bo, with the preseason now being a wash in terms of seeing your heavy hitters at any positions, given that and given all the changes with the offensive personnel, what kind of grade, I'm not asking you to grade each particular player, but how close are they to showing what they really are capable of, do you think they are right now?
You talking about with the offense?
The offense, yeah.
I mean, I thought you saw more of it in week 2 than you did in week 1. Week 1, I think, was fairly predictable that they were going to kind of sputter their way through it, having not played at all.
Yep.
I thought we saw a little more of what they want to be last week. And to Lamar Jackson's credit, he was very good. I think he gets the ball out more quickly now. He looked confident. He's got, let's face it, he's got just a better group of players to play with. And that helps. Zay Flowers is a difference maker in this offense. And so whether you throw him the short ones or you throw him deep, you got a guy like Nelson Aguilar who can contribute and probably will have to do more of that with Beckham sidelined. So the first week was kind of incomplete. Last week was pretty good. I'd probably give him a B if I had to grade it right now based on a kind of a middling week 1 and a pretty good week 2. But I think they feel like they're getting up to speed. Monken himself said, boy, a lot better in week 2 than in week 1, and that's probably to be expected.
Yeah,
but you can see what they want to be. You can see what they want to be, even though now they're shorthanded again at running back. And they didn't have Andrews in week 1, 2, and I think that's also a big thing. I mean, Andrews just makes them go.
Yeah.
And without him, I know it was week 1 and they hadn't played much, but without Andrews on the field, I think Lamar Jackson doesn't look nearly as comfortable.
I was trying my best. To interrupt you like 5 times there. that B, and then I started to say that B, but you think they're capable of A-type performances offensively when it's all together?
Oh, I think they are. Yeah, I think they are. And John Harbaugh will say, well, we'll do offensively whatever it takes to win the game. And look, the thing that struck me, and I wrote about this on Sunday too, all we heard all last summer or over the summer was this passing offense, this new passing offense, all these weapons. They went out and ran that ball down the Bengals' throat at the end of the game, and that's what won them the game. And I know Lamar Jackson scrambled for 1 third down, but they needed 1 yard when Gus Edwards, behind a backup offensive line, just powered the ball right over them. And that is old school football that the Ravens will still want to play.
I agree, but Bo, what really impressed me on that final drive is it wasn't all right up the middle. It was a little bit different. It was let's get the ball to the outside on the perimeter and run it out there. We know they're going to jam up the teeth of this. Even the play calling of just how to run the ball in order to get a few first downs was, I thought, a refreshing sign of what has changed with the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, we were joking because Devin Duvernay got 2 jet sweeps. In the past, he only ever got 1. But I do think Zay Flowers is probably going to end up getting more of those than Duvernay even. But, yeah, they mixed it up. But they went power when they had to go power, and the Bengals couldn't stop them. And so I think there's a lot to like about what they did offensively. They didn't, Lamar Jackson threw well. He had the 1 bomb to Zay Flowers. He missed 1 where he had him earlier rather. But the offense has to come out of the game feeling pretty good because they showed they can do it in the air and on. They're not going to abandon that ground game, nor should they, especially with Lamar Jackson back there. So I think they have to come out of that game feeling good offensively.
All right, Bo, before I let you go, I just wonder if you could help me. I'm struggling to talk about Patrick Queen because we know everybody is seeing how insanely well he's playing right now. I am working under the assumption that it's kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Everybody knows that Patrick Queen is going to price himself out of Baltimore and that the Ravens have kind of simply been forced to accept that. And when they made the decision that they made to not pick up his 5th-year option, this is just where you are. Is it possible that I miss and the Ravens really could just say we are going to invest? It's already $20 million a year in Roquan Smith. That Patrick Queen's starting to look like a $17, $18 million a year player. Is it crazy to think that they maybe are committed to saying we want to have the best inside linebacker duo in football for the next 5 years, or am I right to assume that everybody just kind of knows that's not the way it's going to be?
I think he's going to price himself out. I do. I mean, you're right. I agree with your assumption that when they made the decision to keep Roquan Smith, that was the decision they made, and they were not going to be able to afford to keep both. Queen he's been fantastic. I mean, he's been, and I'll say this: Queen has been fantastic since the first day of training camp. And that's to his credit. You come back on a team that basically said, prove it to us, right? We prove it to us or something like that, basically. Didn't pick up his option. He had every right to kind of pout or be in a bad mental place over that, and he has just come out and played great since August. So that's much to his credit. I think he's going to get paid handsomely if he keeps playing like this. And I just don't see the Ravens being able to do it. We talked to Eric DaCosta about 3 weeks ago, and one of the things he said, he acknowledged that, building the roster changes now that we sign Lamar Jackson. It just does. The math just works out that way. And he wasn't specifically talking about Queen there, but as you asked that question, I remember him saying that. And I just don't see them being able to afford what Queen is going to earn.
How much is Roquan Smith's presence and maybe mentorship, how much of that is real, what he's meant to Patrick Queen? Because he seems like he's been a different player since the first day that Roquan Smith arrived.
Oh, I think it's very real. I think he's had a huge impact on him. I mean, the defense is better, period.
Yeah.
But the defense is better overall with Smith and Queen versus Queen and Josh Bynes or whoever else it would have been in there.
Right.
But I think he's been a real good mentor to Patrick Queen. I think they get along really well. I think they operate in sync defensively really well. And so I think Roquan Smith's effect on Queen has been really, really impressive.
Bo, of course, everybody can follow you at Smolka on Twitter and read your stuff at PressBoxOnline.com. Always appreciate taking the time for us. Let's talk again next Friday. Thanks so much for doing it.
All right, Glenn and Stan, thanks. Take care.
Thank you, Bo.
Bo Smolka with us here on GCR. Today's show also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Stan, I am a little bit worried that I'm just overvaluing what I saw last week and I'm getting carried away, and that I'm forgetting that again, unless something changes today and someone shows back up at practice, to Bo's point, Ardarius Washington's on IR. Odell Beckham, Justice Hill, Marlon Humphrey, Tyler Linderbaum, Odafe Owe, Ronnie Stanley, Marcus Williams all look slated to not play against the Colts. And I know that part of this conversation is it's the Colts.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to dismiss that. But you and I both picked them to cover 7.5.
That was even before I realized how banged up they are. I didn't know that.
I'm worried that I'm being too dismissive of the impact of the injuries because I've just sort of fallen in love with what I saw the Ravens do last Sunday, and that the totality of this, it can't just be dismissed. There is so much here. Now, part of it is you still have Lamar Jackson, and when you still have Lamar Jackson, you still feel pretty good because the other team doesn't have Lamar Jackson. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm worried that I'm not really thinking through the full-on impact of just how insanely depleted this team is at this point.
Yeah, they are, and they're up against a veteran quarterback who, while he's got his warts, I think it would be fair to say he's sort of like a Kyle Gibson quarterback.
Okay, yeah.
He's got
right.
He's got his moments. And you like some of the intangibles. I can't help but think he'll throw a couple picks at a key time.
Yeah, he's very capable of that, obviously, Gardner Minshew. And that's, again, presuming that Minshew's playing, and they haven't confirmed that yet.
I thought I had heard that during the week.
It's the assumption. The assumption continues to be that Gardner Minshew's going to play. They haven't officially ruled out Anthony Richardson yet, but the assumption is that today, when the final injury report comes out.
Especially with the weather forecast. Isn't it supposed to be?
So it's supposed to rain all weekend. I haven't looked again to see the hourly for Sunday. I was trying to check the hourly. Unfortunately, the Weather Channel only gives you 2 days worth of hourly. So
you don't pay for the?
No, I don't pay for Weather Plus or whatever the hell their subscription service is. And in fact, I think I'm still all right. So I'm only up to. We're still only up to 10 a.m. on Sunday, but at 10 a.m. on Sunday, it's still supposed to be raining. So I
don't think they're playing Richardson in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people have made that assumption. Let me pull up the overall forecast and see if I can give you something else for Sunday afternoon.
Chance of rain 80% throughout the day. Chance of rain by Sunday night drops to 50%.
But that smells like it's going to be raining throughout the afternoon. Yeah. It's supposed to rain all weekend. All weekend.
Like you said, I'm not worried because they have Lamar Jackson. The Colts are banged up as well. We just mentioned, they're going to be playing whatever you want to say about Gardner Minshew, he is a backup quarterback in the NFL. Quentin Nelson hasn't been practicing this week. Kenny Moore, one of their top corners, hasn't been practicing. The Colts are banged up too. Yeah. And the Ravens have more depth. And they showed that their depth can beat a top team like the Bengals.
I agree.
Last week.
I agree. But I bet them to cover 8.5 or 7.5, right? I don't need them to win. I need them to make sure that they hook me up on Superbook is what I need from the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday. All right, hour number 1 of today's show is in the books. A reminder that after the game on Sunday, you want to flip over to youtube.com/PressBoxOnline, and you can hang out for Project Game Day with myself, Rita, and Ravens Super Bowl champion Vontae Leach.
You were talking about the Ravens, how banged up they are.
Yeah.
And, how they might field a roster. Do they have an agility test, too, the Ravens?
Could you go over there? And
I
see?
mean,
I do
think
believe
I
that you
could-
have to pass their conditioning test, which I think is even a bit more difficult than the Baltimore County Police
Really?
Department agility
Yeah,
test.
but what makes you think I couldn't pass their?
That's a great
their
point.
basic- yeah.
Maybe that's the case. Sunday, yeah, join us after the game. Project Game Day. It's all brought to you by Superbook Sports and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. After Ravens-Colts, come hang out with us. You can get involved. You can hop in the Zoom with us. The same way that you would call a radio show, you can hop on, chat with us, ask Vontae what he thinks about what he saw. All that Sunday after Ravens-Colts, thanks to Superbook Sports. HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. Find out more, PressBoxOnline.com/gameday.
So, sometimes during the show, I'll put up the baseball.
Wander over to the grid.
and
Wander
that
over to the grid.
All I remember as a kid and as a young adult and a middle is how fast Bob Feller threw the baseball.
But he didn't have 200 strikeouts?
He does not have 200 strikeouts. I just
I'm a
assumed.
little surprised by that, if I'm being honest with you.
I'm shocked.
I'm a bit surprised by that myself. When we come back in, Chuck Pagano is going to join us, former Ravens defensive coordinator, former Colts head coach. He still knows a thing or two about the Colts. He's involved with Wish TV out in Indianapolis. Plus, we'll just talk football with Chuck Pagano because he's the best. That's next. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Maryland drivers, did you know you can save up to 77% on tolls with an Easy Pass Maryland discount plan? That's right, 77%. It's never been easier. Pick the plan that's right for you at driveezmd.com. We'll keep you moving.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org. The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, September 26th at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand. Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the eastern shore where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah.
The Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring with competitive salaries, including for experienced police officers, starting salaries between over $68,000 and over $82,000 based on your prior service time, accepting up to 7 years of service times with only 6 weeks in the academy, minimum of 2 years prior experience. And police cadet starting salaries at over $32,000 must be between the ages of 18 and 20, but you can apply starting at 17 and a half. Must have a high school diploma or GED equivalent at the time of the hire, U.S. citizen at the time of the hire, and a valid driver's license. So if you have a passion for service and want a career for life, now is the time to join the Baltimore County Police Department. Call 410-887-5542 or visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food, check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
Visit Harford County this fall. Celebrate arts across Harford September 15th through the 30th with dance, theater, music, and visual arts. September 29th through October 1st is the largest Italian festival in Maryland, featuring entertainment, cooking demonstrations, a bocce tournament, and family fun. If you're headed to the Maryland 5-Star, stay and play in Harford County. While you're there, enjoy the scenic views atop the King and Queen seats and experience pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and fall brews along their Harford Libation Trail. For more info, head to visitharford.com. Maryland open.
Sure, Glenn may be in his 40s now, but he looks just as good as he ever has, and he's still as sharp as he ever was. And I say both those things without even a shred of irony. Find out for yourself right now by watching the show at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or youtube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Into hour number 2 here on GCR. Stan the Fan Charles, Chief Grand Poobah here at PressBox, in studio with us for a Friday edition of the program. Chuck Pagano will join us in a second. Before the show wraps up, we'll chat with the Hall of Famer James Lofton, as he'll be on the call for Ravens-Colts Sunday on CBS. That's all coming up here in hour number 2. Before we do that, Griffin, you want to tell everybody about something new that's going on at Live Casino and Hotel?
Yeah, I want to tell you about the second chance drawing that they go on. So if luck was not on your side in a recent bet, like me taking Daniel Jones to have 25 rushing yards last night.
Eek.
Yeah, who was going to run the ball?
Eek.
But if you luck was not on your side in a recent bet at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, get ready to turn those losses into winning opportunities with the second chance to win promotion between now and January 4th. That is basically all football season at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. All Live Casino and Hotel Maryland Rewards members will be able to enter their losing slips into the second chance to win drum, and 2 nights a week, 20 different winners will be chosen. Prizes range from Live Casino and Hotel Maryland apparel, sports and social ultimate happy hour, and cash and free play prizes up to $500. Drawings, again, held every Thursday and Monday, so turn your luck around at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right. Joining us now here on GCR, one of my favorite humans. He is, of course, former Ravens defensive coordinator and former Colts head coach. And he's still involved in the media scene in Indianapolis as he's part of Wish TV's coverage. He is our friend, the great Coach Chuck Pagano, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn. Stan the Fan Charles is in studio with me today. It's great to chat with you as always, sir. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Likewise. It's always great to be on with you guys. Appreciate the kind words.
Coach, it's good to hear your voice, my friend. First of all, this is, Stan and I were talking about this yesterday. I know you're living out in Idaho. I know you're not there, but and I guess there was a similar experience with Brian here in Baltimore, where he stuck around and was still involved in coverage. But it's interesting to me to see that you're still doing the media thing in Indy and involved, even from a team that moved on from you. Like, take me through why it was something that you wanted to keep doing and the love that you found for that city and why it was a place that you wanted to still be involved with.
Yeah, it's feel very grateful, to have the relationship, that I still have with Mr. Irsay, the Colts organization, the city of Indianapolis, all the fans and people there, AC Calhoun, sports anchor, 9-time Emmy, 10-time Emmy award-winning sports anchor there, Wish TV in Indy, is a great, great friend. Did my post-game shows with him and Billy Brooks. So forever connected, with that city, just based on my time there, going through the whole, cancer journey, still going back because of, Jim Irsay and the Colts, huge heart, and IU Simon Cancer Center doing our gala this year in April, be 12 years, going strong with that thing. So the great thing is I am in Boise. I am in Idaho. I get to do the deal from home. They call me. Thank God for technology. I do the FaceTime with them. It's awesome, and I'm going back and doing, the McAfee show. I do fly back there and do McAfee every Thursday, which I'm so grateful for. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun to stay involved. My football fix.
Did he get there? By the way, did we ever find out when McAfee got that like $1 billion deal from ESPN? Did you even get like a steak dinner out of it? Like one trip to St. Elmo's, anything like that?
I don't. I have no idea. He's doing great.
Yeah,
he's crushing it.
He's
Him and the boys are phenomenal. Can't wait to watch him today up in South Bend.
It's very cool, Coach. It's very cool that you continue that relationship. But, not everybody here loves Indianapolis. I don't know if at some point you could use that relationship with Jim.
That?
Well, I just wonder if maybe,
that?
like on behalf of us, because we know how much you still care about our city too, maybe we could use that relationship to like negotiate the history back at some point. I don't know. Just we'll maybe put a bug in the ear. That's all we're asking for at some point. Might be.
What kind of seats we got for Mr. Irsay? I mean, we gotta. What about forgiveness, man? We gotta move on.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough when we see them trotting out John Unitas as though he ever played.
It's only been 40 years.
Yeah, as you can tell, we're totally over it. It's completely.
You remember? Hey, you guys remember Glenn Stan when I was so fortunate, the opportunity that organization John Harbaugh gave me back in 2011, to run that defense. And Christ, I mean, with all the players we had, anybody could have done it. But when I got the Indy job, and the next day in the paper, they had my Photoshop my picture in the Mayflower.
No, they did.
Heading out of town. I was like, damn. Okay.
Coach, it's tough. We have not. The wounds have not healed around these parts.
No,
it is a tough.
I think the toughest loss in Ravens history, Coach, was the
06,
one. With
playoffs.
McNair quarterbacking the Ravens and playing the Colts in a meaningful game. And
darkest day in franchise history for sure.
Oh, I know.
Coach, what might make it on paper? It's going to be easy for everybody around here to say, this is the Colts. Like, that's what it is. But we do know that they played really well a week ago. What can make them a threat against what is obviously a banged-up, depleted Ravens team coming into Baltimore on Sunday?
Well, it still remains to be seen if Anthony Richardson's going to play or not, going through the concussion protocol. If he's under center or playing quarterback for the Colts, come Sunday, the threat of him, throwing the ball, running the ball, his athleticism, extending the plays, rushing for 2 touchdowns early in that game last week. The guy's a problem and going to be a problem. Throws the ball with accuracy. He's got arm talent, all that stuff. Zach Moss came in, did a nice job. They obviously don't have Jonathan Taylor, but if he doesn't play, Gardner Minshew, who comes over from Philly, we all know Gardner, was with Shane, so he knows the system. Smart pickup for those guys to bring him in to mentor Anthony and be the backup. He knows where to go with the ball. He's not going to be the threat that Anthony is as far as running the ball, extending plays, but he knows where to go with the ball. Shane will have a great game plan for him. He'll get the ball out. He'll go through his progressions. They'll throw the quick game, hand the ball off. Defensively, Gus does a great job. They're good up front. Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner are a problem. They've got speed at linebacker. The issue with them is, in the secondary, they're just young. They got 2 college free agents, from 2022 starting at corner. So, and they've got some injuries back there. But they're going to play really hard. They're going to play fast. They're playing with a little bit of confidence now. So, you have to – I know John's telling that team, hey, look, this is a good football team. And, the strength of ball, I mean, they can still run the ball. We know that Lamar and those guys, Gus, are going to run the football. But this defense has only given up 2.57 yards per rush attempt, number 1 in the National Football League. So it's going to be a challenge to try to, run the ball on them. So it should be a good game.
Coach, sometimes you see a young coach come over, a coordinator from another program comes over and gets his head coaching job, and it's deep water for them at first. Your impressions early on of Shane Steichen there as head coach?
Yeah, very impressed with Shane. I've had a chance to get to know him a little bit more. Very steady. Very upfront, forthright, matter of fact. There's not a lot of fluff. He's an all football dude. He knows the game. he's great with that locker room, the staff. They kept the defensive staff there. He just seems really steady, and he seems really measured. And so I think he's done, a really good job, coming in there, starting out and kind of stabilizing, an organization, a franchise, obviously coming off of a crazy year in 2022. Really like Shane. I think the future's really bright for him and that organization.
He's Coach Chuck Pagano. He is with us on Glenn Clark Radio as we're talking Ravens-Colts ahead of Sunday. Coach, I want to bring it to Baltimore if I could, because we were just talking in our last segment about how unreal this inside linebacker duo of Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen has been. And Patrick Queen is playing at such an absurdly high level. And I think most of us are working under the assumption that Patrick Queen's going to price himself out of Baltimore. But is it crazy for a team in the NFL to consider saying, no, that's just where we want our strength to be? Like, we know it's going to cost us somewhere else. We know we're not going to be able to spend money at edge rush or somewhere. But, like, if we've got Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen on the field together, we feel pretty good about what a defense is going to be capable of doing. Could a team simply say inside linebacker in 2023 and moving forward is the place we're going to have our investments?
Yeah, you can, kind of do anything you want to do, when it comes to the cap and make a decision how you want to spend your money, where you want to allocate your resources. What a duo those two are. I mean, unbelievable. I call run and hit guys, see ball, get ball. History says, if you go back and look at, Bart Scott as well as he played, and he was out there, and you can go on and on and on about, the decisions that have been made and really, really smart decisions, based on that organization and how they do business. So, they got the quarterback paid. I don't know who else is coming up, down the pike, but those two guys, they're young, they're athletic, they're three-down linebackers, play unbelievable together, great against the run, play the pass, can match up, zone, man coverage. You blitz them, they're hard to block, they get to the quarterback. I think that organization do whatever they can do to try to keep that tandem together.
Coach, our previous guest to you was Bo Smolka, who covers the Ravens for us, and I asked him a question about what Mike McDonald does against the Bengals specifically. And Glenn, what was the stat he gave?
It's something like they've been held under 300 yards 4 times, and all 4 of them have been.
4 of them against Mike McDonald.
Yeah.
What is your impression of him as a defensive coordinator?
I really like Mike, and that organization it's kind of been pressure. Even going back when I got there in 2008 with Rex.
Yep.
The system has been in place. We were a pressure outfit. Stop the run. You were not going to run the football on the Ravens. We're going to out-physical you. We're going to bully you, but you are not going to run the football. And then when we got you into third and long situations, we were going to come after you. And Mike's aggressive, and he likes to, do the same thing. They're really good at stopping the run again. They're always going to do that. He's going to be calculated. When he wants to decide to pressure people, he knows the other offense. He knows what to take away. He does a really good job of that. He tries to make you beat him left-handed. And so he's evolved. If you look at him last year when he first came in, and, they had a huge lead at Miami, just look at that game, right?
Yep.
And then you can kind of sometimes try to do maybe a little bit too much, get a little bit too fancy. You got young guys in the back end, and you have some communication breakdowns and give up. But then you look at what happened at the latter part of that season, the last half of that season, nobody was better in the National Football League than Mike McDonald and that defense, and what they did. So they evolved, and he adapted. So I think he's really, really smart guy. He understands what he has. If I have injuries in the back end, if I have some young corners, how can I protect these guys? And so, I think he's done a great job, and he's just going to continue to evolve and keep that defense going in the right direction and only getting better.
Coach, I'm finding it difficult to not get caught up in a hyperbole after, Stan and I were just talking about this. The Ravens are completely depleted. I mean, they are in hell injury-wise, and yet we're feeling extraordinarily confident because we just saw what Lamar Jackson did against the Bengals last week and how this offensive line performed and what it seems like is still an ascending group with an offensive coordinator that's only had 2 games to work with this, and yet it already looks this good. Is there any reason why we shouldn't be extremely excited about the trajectory of Todd Monken with Lamar Jackson? As you know, the Ravens haven't put a really good wide receiver core on the field together a lot in their history. This is maybe the best group they've ever had at the position. Is there any reason for us to not be extraordinarily excited about the direction of where the Ravens are going offensively right now?
Hell no. No, I mean, you're 2-0. There's only 2 undefeated teams in the AFC right now, and everybody talked about at the beginning of the season, what a juggernaut the AFC was going to be.
Yeah.
Until they prove us wrong and show us different, hey, let's be excited about what's going on. Let's be excited about getting the Lamar deal done, bringing in Todd Monken. Got a ton of respect for Todd. He's a great coach, better person. What he's doing with that offense, it's 2 games in. And how much did that group play together in preseason?
Not at all.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Not even a snap.
And we see, and the team that they just beat, we know they didn't play. We know Joey B was hurt the whole time, whatever, and we see an offense that we all thought was going to be a juggernaut, right? Struggling right now. So kudos to Todd Monken, Lamar Jackson, that offense, bringing in Zay Flowers. What an electric player this young guy is. I mean, holy crap. And if you're playing these guys, just stay healthy. Keep Odell healthy, Bateman, Duvernay, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews is back. The way they can run the ball, the zone schemes, the gap schemes, and Lamar with his legs, and I wish he'd take care of himself a little bit more. I see him running up the back alignment and getting bounced around and stuff, and I know he's a tough guy, but we got to keep him healthy. And as long as he's healthy and the rest of those guys stay healthy, I mean, you don't want to see these guys as a defensive coach. You don't want to see these guys.
It's a really exciting time. As you know, it's not been a lot of robust offense in Ravens history. It's a really exciting time for everybody here.
Coach, you mentioned earlier Gardner Minshew was with Shane Steichen last year in Philadelphia. What are your impressions about what he brings to the table and what the Ravens have to fear about Minshew starting this game?
He's really, really smart. He processes really well. He knows, pre-snap, pretty much what you're going to be in. Post-snap, he can go through his reads, figure out where to go with the ball. Again, Shane's going to do a great job of designing a plan, that fits his skill set. Got great poise. He's unflappable. He's confident. You just watch him and you see him operate and move around and communicate with that team and that offensive unit. The job that he did last week coming in, I mean, what was he, 19 of 21, 22, something crazy like that. 2 touchdown drives, I believe, when he came in. He's just a really, really solid player. And he's a guy like most of these teams, when the starter goes out, they bring in a guy for, to play a couple innings, if you will. He's a guy that can move a team, can move an offense, and you can win with, and you can play complementary football because they got a good defense. They'll play good special teams, and he's not gonna make too many mistakes. He's not gonna turn the ball over.
Does Gardner still have the mustache, Coach? The handle,
yeah, right. It was a good. It looks like he still has it. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So that's it's not quite as
you're
pronounced.
Out in Boise, but
yeah, it's not quite as pronounced. It's actually kind of bled into his beard. I'm not sure. That might be a knock on him now that we think about it. That might be a knock. Hey, Coach, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. My nieces, couple of my nieces on my wife's side, they went to WSU, so they love them some Gardner Minshew.
He's a
and
character.
They'll dress up with the mustache and a goatee or whatever for Halloween. Not as good as Artie Smith, right now. Not as pronounced as Coach Smith in Atlanta.
Right.
But still classic.
Hey, Coach, before we let you go, I wonder, because I think everybody remembers that you, of course, came from the college level, and we know that you were, so thought of as a player's coach, and, of course, the relationship you had with Ed was so special in particular. But I wonder, as you watch, there's been a lot made about whether or not Deion could move to the NFL after seeing the success that he's found, and knowing what he's doing and how he's connecting. What do you make of the idea of Deion Sanders potentially being an NFL head coach this time next year?
I mean, you never say never. He's been really outspoken about, not wanting to ever do that because of his inability with professional athletes, with the money that they make to, have the impact on young people that he has at the collegiate level. So, could he go and do it and be successful? Hell yeah. I mean, he keeps asking, do you believe? Hell yeah, I believe. He's made me a believer, and we'll see what happens tomorrow on the road. Great test up at Oregon.
No doubt.
Really good football team up there. But I just listened to him, talk, and when people ask him about the National Football League and listening to his remarks, I just think the way he can, develop young men, not only on the football field, but off the football field, and get them ready for the real life stuff, is just so impactful that I think he'll stay right where he is now. Will he stay in Boulder? Will he stay at the University of Colorado? Only time will tell on that. But again, never say never. When they come at you with a bunch of M's, we know he likes bling, and he knows he likes nice shoes, and all that kind of stuff. We all do, right? So they throw enough M's at you. Yeah,
Coach,
maybe it happens.
Coach, I'm listening to you, and what I actually heard is with what they're paying college players now, he might have to go to high school coaching to really impact players.
Yeah, that's just the thing. He don't care about that. He wants to see people get their bag, if you will, and do as good as they can. But the thing about Deion, he don't play. He's going to hold them accountable, and you're going to have to earn every cent of that NIL stuff, and he ain't never going to make it about that.
How good is his son as a prospect for the NFL?
Oh, wow. I mean, you talk about poise and accuracy and arm talent and putting a university and a team on your back and on your shoulders. I mean, you just look at that fourth quarter comeback down 11 last week, against Colorado State, and what he did without, his best player in Travis Hunter. That was incredible. I mean, the numbers that he's putting up. Yeah, I mean, you can say, Caleb, Drake May, this guy, that guy. This guy is pretty darn good when you watch him. Again, the next couple of weeks, the litmus test is going to be, your competition. So let's see what happens on the road in a hostile environment up at Oregon. 2 weeks from now, SC comes to town. But I think what's going to happen is you're going to see, the same guy. This guy is just so smart and so poised. How could you not be growing up in that house and being around, your dad? Holy heck.
At Chuck Pagano NFL on Twitter is how you follow him. And, of course, as he mentioned, you can see him on the Pat McAfee show every Thursday. Coach, it's always great to hear your voice, my friend. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning. We look forward to doing it again real soon, all right?
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Coach Chuck Pagano, the best. Love that guy. Always appreciate him taking the time for us here on GCR.
How'd you really become friendly with him?
When he arrived here, I had 3 or 4 people that reached out to me and said, you're going to love this guy.
Right.
And this is when I was still covering the team more regularly, and so we would do like the podium, and we'd have a and he was the type of person that would want to keep chatting with you afterwards. He would want, the old school, and admittedly, because I don't really cover the team anymore, maybe somebody would say this. I don't know if that's what Todd Monken's like or if that's what Mike McDonald's like. But you remember there was an era of Ravens coaches that they would have liked to have had you around more.
Yeah.
They wanted you. They felt like they could educate you more. They felt like they wanted to have you around. They would text you about what you were talking about on the radio. And then the team kind of stepped in and said, we don't want you doing that anymore. But Chuck had that mentality of just being someone that wanted to talk to you. He wanted to get to know everybody and was such a likable person. And, like his relationship with Ed Reed was kind of overwhelming and very significant there. And our friend Glenn Eunice had told me, like, connect with Chuck.
Yep.
Like, that he's the guy. He's that dude. And within one conversation, I knew just how special Chuck Pagano was. Look, you guys know that I don't have a lot of positive feelings towards the owner of the previous radio station that I worked at that went under. But I think a lot of people know that his wife went through a battle with cancer. And I will tell you that Chuck Pagano was on the phone daily during that process, was a prominent figure for them and what they were going through, having been through what he had gone through.
Yeah.
The reverence that I have for Chuck Pagano is overwhelming. I love that guy. He's a great guy, and is very good at this too. So appreciate him taking the time for us. A couple of things that I had for you here is it is a Friday edition of GCR. Stan the Fan Charles is in studio with us. By the way, the line has moved. It is now Ravens favored by 8 at Superbook.com. Going up despite all of the injuries. Going up 8 points the number now for the Ravens on Sunday against the Colts at Superbook.com. Use the code GlennClark23 or StanCharles23. And if you say 8, they're going to win by 20. Well, go ahead. Make a same-day first bet, and if you use that code, it'll be matched in free bets, win or lose, up to $250. So the good news is, if you win the bet, great. You got your money, and you get free bets. If you're wrong and the Ravens only win by a touchdown, no big deal. You still get all that money in free bets back. So go sign up right now.
Let me just ask you, so if a gentleman's listening right now who's married,
yes,
he could use Glenn Clark 23 and sign up.
Yes.
And the wife
could
use Stan Charles 23.
Mrs. Schmarls.
Get a totally different.
100%. That would be an option
and get
for that.
$250.
No question. Yeah. No question. So go sign up right now. And again, the number has moved to 8 for the Ravens. All right. Did you watch the football game at all last night?
No.
Okay.
You didn't
watching baseball. I get
Forgot it was on.
Yeah, it was not. There was nothing exhilarating about it whatsoever.
How did Christian McCaffrey play?
He played good.
The funny thing is he got me like 23 in the one league where I have him. He got me 23 points, and I was like, that's kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
Like that's where we are with Christian McCaffrey.
In one of my leagues, I'm going against him and Debo, and
that was tough. That was tough.
50 points.
You know what's really weird? You realize the 49ers have now scored exactly 30 points in all 3 games.
Have they really?
Exactly 30 points in all 3 games they played this season,
Well,
which
I'd
is
like to bet that next
yeah,
week
right.
that
And
they'll
like
score 30.
what a weird
You
weird
mean
bit.
exactly 30.
Exactly 30 points, not 30 or more. Exactly the number 30 points in all 3 games.
Remember the pool that Steve Barrett used to run?
I do remember
the
that
33 pool.
Yeah, right. I do
That's
remember
an
that
odd
pool.
number. Yeah.
Here's one other number that was pointed out about Mike McDonald against the Bengals. This is from Tej Smith. The Bengals. So EPA expected point. I don't remember.
Added per play.
Added per play. Thank you. So like it's a metric to measure the success per play, and the Bengals offense per play since 2021 has a plus 0.09. Right?
Okay.
Like every play they run,
they're nearly adding.
It's the 4th best in the NFL.
Okay.
Every play they run, they're nearly adding 1/10 a point per play on the successfulness of those plays.
And what is their
against the Ravens? Negative 0.04.
That's
pretty,
which is
pretty
yep,
good.
Yeah, that's
yep,
not bad.
Pretty remarkable. Pretty remarkable. Now. So last night, Thursday Night Football, it rekindles this sort of weird conversation that exists about the 49ers, which is they look great, all they do is win, but do you believe that they can win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy as their quarterback? And it is.
I do. I mean, I'd feel a lot more comfortable talking about it had he not gotten hurt so early in that game.
But he's looked good. I mean, like I say he looks good. He misses throws.
Yeah.
And that's the tricky part is that I think down the stretch last season we were having a conversation about whether or not he could legitimately be Kurt Warner. Like, if it's just such a revelation, you missed or you just didn't see one of the most talented quarterbacks. Kurt Warner proved to be one of the greatest quarterbacks that ever played the game. The more I see Brock Purdy, the less I'm convinced that he's Kurt Warner, as much as I'm convinced that he's
Brad Johnson.
Yeah, or
Brad Johnson
maybe even Kirk Cousins, like on the high level.
He's like Kirk Cousins with a much better team
and
around
and
him.
that's
and what's wrong with that?
Can you win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins if you put? And by the way, Kirk Cousins has had a lot of really good players around him during the course of his career, and he got close, of course. Like, got very close. But can you win a Super Bowl with that caliber of player if you just put up as talented a roster as you can around them? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
30 points a game for 3
It's a
games,
good start.
That's a good start.
It's a good start. You got to keep everybody healthy. And, like, there was the moment last night where Debo went down, and you were like, oh, boy. They've identified Ronnie Bell as maybe being a thing when Brandon Ayuk was hurt last night and might be a productive part of what they can do moving forward. I'm still struggling. Like, to me, it's the biggest question I still have about the 49ers is if you get to a place where you just simply have to win, they got to go down and score every drive in the second half in order to win because you're facing the Eagles in the NFC Championship game or whatever it is. I don't know. But I get the idea that you're believing it more and more every time you see him.
Purdy is the third. I was going to save it for tidbit, but relevant here. Purdy is the third youngest player in NFL history to throw for 700 yards, at least 4 passing touchdowns, and 0 interceptions through his first 3 games of a season. The 2 youngest to do it. 2018 and 2019. The MVP.
Okay. Burrow and the MVP.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, obviously, and then who was the MVP in 2018? Mahomes. Mahomes.
Yes.
That's
Those
pretty
are the
good company.
Yeah, those are the only
pretty
two
good company.
I mean, they are moving the goal line a little bit. I mean, only 4 passing touchdowns through 3 games, but no turnovers I think is big, and so I mean Purdy takes care of the football, which I think is better than what Kirk
that's
does.
important.
And so,
but he also misses he regularly misses downfield open throws, right? Like I say regularly. That's unfair to say it's regular, but 3 or 4 times in a game there's a downfield open throw to be had that he just misses the throw.
How much is he getting picked off?
Not much. That's what Griffin just said. Not much at all. Like, he does for the most part.
There was one dangerous pass, I think, early in the game that I remember seeing that should have been picked off. But
one question I had about the 49ers, what did they end up – why did they get rid of Raheem Mostert? Is that when they got McCafferty last year? And
I thought
did they just release him, or was that a trade to the Dolphins? Because he is really a good running back.
Trying to remember what the story was on Raheem Mostert. I'll give you an answer in 2 seconds because I don't.
Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, he was a free agent.
He was a free agent. It was an off-season signing.
It was.
It was before the so he had dealt with an injury in 21.
Yes, and then he signed a 1-year deal with Miami last year.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then they signed him to a 2-year deal ahead of this season.
Right. He's really good.
All right, the other question. I know this is something we're going to be writing about for PressBox. You are an Orioles MVP voter, correct?
Correct.
Have you made up your mind yet as to who you will be voting for
funny you
Orioles
say that.
MVP?
Since we changed our email, I'm like we went from using Earthlink to what do we use? Outlook now.
Yeah.
I just can't find emails. I go in and it's so I just emailed the Orioles yesterday and explained that to them. I said, it just dawned on me. I never got an email. Did it get lost in the shuffle? And Nate Rowan, the lead PR person, says basically you'll have plenty of time to get a vote in, and he's going to send it to me. So
I guess
unlike
some seasons where you had to make sure you announced it before the season was over so you could do a ceremony, you could do that before a playoff game this year, so you don't have to wait and do it early.
Yeah.
Have you made a decision yet?
I'm between probably 4 people.
Okay.
Which I'm usually down to 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bautista clearly
is still
gets
in
some
the conversation.
consideration. I think Anthony Santander.
Okay.
When I focus in on the hits that made a huge difference, I think he's one of the people I would put in there. And I would put Gunnar Henderson in there. And I think my fourth one was Adley Rutschman.
So there's someone – I'm between two people, and one of them was not on your list.
Okay.
So it would have been to me – and by the way, I don't have – to make this clear, I don't have a vote. This is just something that I'm going to write about.
Right.
We're all going to write about for PressBox. I would have been Felix Bautista at the point at which he got hurt.
Right.
And I do still think there's an argument for Felix Bautista, but it's a tougher argument for me for Felix Bautista. To the point, I think the guy who's going to win is Gunnar. I think Gunnar is going to end up winning MVP just because he's when he came on, like if you're
the
capable
team
of
went
this
to a different gear.
Exactly, and I think that's the closest thing I can come up with for MVP of the team.
Right.
But the guy that I think I keep coming back to as a solid argument for most valuable is Kyle Bradish. The guy that I can't shake in this conversation.
That's a good conversation. I mean, that's a good point of view.
Legitimately putting together the best pitching season that we've seen in Baltimore
since maybe Eric Bedard's best season.
And if you consider that
he's not an asshole
and didn't come out after 5 innings, right? Like to the point about the numbers are about as good as Eric Bedard, and he pitched deeper into games than Eric Bedard did. So there's an argument that it's the best pitching season that we've seen since Messina at this point.
Yeah.
Like I think he was better than Tillman's best season.
Opened my eyes. I hadn't thought about him. He's a very interesting choice.
It's tough because I feel like we're still unwilling to talk about Kyle Bradish as being an ace because we've never thought of him as being that guy. Right. But you keep looking at the numbers and you say to yourself, like, in what way is he not an ace? In what way is he not that guy? And he's just shown up and delivered something far more that we could have ever expected coming into this season. He has solidified the top of a rotation. He is the unquestionable Game 1 playoff starter. There is no debate that that's the guy that you want out there starting Game 1 in the postseason.
You're arguing a real strong case for him.
1.0 whip.
Right.
3.01 ERA in the American
Those are
League.
Season-long.
Yes.
Those are season-long numbers.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's
how many
nuts.
strikeouts does he have? In how many innings?
159 strikeouts in 158 innings. So
he's 1 per inning. Yeah.
It's bonkers to me what Kyle Bradish has done this season and how.
How many home runs has he given up?
14. 14 in 28 starts. It's
pretty good.
It's incredible what Kyle Bradish has accomplished this season, and I'm still struggling, right? Like I don't.
And you passed an agility test.
And I passed an agility test. Really amazing when you think about it. I'm still struggling with like what I'm gonna write when we do this for PressBox because I think the answer is just Gunnar, but I'm worried that that's because I'm defaulting to the the Peter Angelos way. One guy plays every day and the other guy doesn't play every day.
Right.
But if everyone was equal. And who's done their job the best this season?
And there's also the fact that Gunnar will probably win the next 8.
Yeah, he might win all of them for a very long
maybe
time
the
to come.
Fourth year Jackson Holiday.
Yeah, we'll sneak at some point. Yeah, he'll get into the mix. I can't.
So you've argued a good case.
I can't.
For some reason, I'm not focused on a starting pitcher.
Well, and I don't think we ever think of when we use words MVP. We don't tend to think about starting pitchers. And even the Felix Bautista argument was difficult because you're like, well, he pitches 1 inning every. But it was
but he has high impact. On
very high impact,
60
right?
Games, 70 games.
I don't know. I can't. I think I'm gonna default the Gunnar, but I started writing it.
You may have convinced me to.
I started writing it, and then I sort of said to myself, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just falling into the trap of like groupthink of this is the easy answer, and I'm not thinking this through more because there's no other way for me to describe Kyle. And I feel like somehow it's not getting enough attention nationally. The season that Kyle Bradish has put together, it's like it's happened, and baseball as a whole has sort of been like, oh, those plucky Orioles.
Well,
And
last night one of the announcers they had him on.
yeah,
last night
Pierzynski brought it up,
and
right?
brought up Cy Young Award, and I hadn't thought of him for that either.
But look at his numbers in comparison to the other,
Yeah.
candidates for the Cy Young.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull up what the odds are at this point.
Might be a good bet in that for us.
I don't think he's gonna. I think Garrett Cole has been assumed to be the Cy Young Award winner. But this is what's crazy to me. Like I just pulled it up from. Unfortunately, that market is not available on Superbook, so you can't bet that there. But I pulled it up on DraftKings. Garrett Cole, overwhelming favorite. Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray, Kevin Gausman, Framber Valdez, George Kirby, Pablo. There's not even a mention.
Not even a mention
of Kyle Bradish. And those are his numbers. What world are we living in?
It's like a Rodney Dangerfield thing.
It is very much I can't get no respect around here.
Now, I'm curious, MVP, not team MVP.
Right, AL MVP.
Is Gunnar even
he has started showing up on odds for MVP. But it's an awkward thing because, like, Shohei is going to win.
Right.
So it's almost like, here's all of the other guys that it won't be. Right now, it's Ohtani, then Seager, Julio Rodriguez, Bobby Witt are the next couple of guys.
So maybe if they go 50 for 50 the final 10 games
Something
here.
like that Gunnar could end up getting in there. But I've started to see in some other markets him at least like on page 1 where he started to be like the 6th or 7th guy listed. But
yeah, and I mean, even when we were making our second half predictions, when we did the
you want to pull those up and just see?
Yeah. When we were doing our game 1 starter.
Reds in the World Series.
Oh, is that your?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's do this. This is fun. Let's go back and revisit because some of these things might still be alive.
Yeah. Well, the first question was a little bit of a wash. We said, will the Orioles acquire a pitcher that immediately goes into the rotation and/or one that goes into the bullpen? And we all said reliever.
So we all missed it.
Yeah, we all missed.
Well, hang on a second, because he is a reliever now. So. Do we all get the point then?
I guess it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
Will Connor Norby still be an Oriole, part of the organization in August?
Ooh.
Stan and I said yes.
Ooh.
Glenn Clark said
that's
no.
a tough one for me. Uh-oh.
Will Heston Kjerstad play for the Orioles before the season is over?
I think I said no on that one too.
Glenn did say no. Stan and I both said yes.
Oh, I'm in trouble. Thanks a lot for getting hurt, Ryan Mountcastle, you jerk.
You might make a nice comeback, though, in the World Series.
Yeah, I might need the World Series.
Will the Orioles announce a contract extension for any player before the World Series ends?
Okay, all right, so we still have time here.
Yeah, we still have time.
How do we?
You two said no. I said yes.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, we feel good,
Yeah,
obviously.
I guess you should feel good.
Stan's got to be feeling great after he lost this thing last year. He's 3 for 3.
This is where I start to fall apart. This is what will the Orioles win total be? Stan said 96, which was the highest. So he's going to win. Glenn, you said 92. I said 90.
Well,
so I don't know what we were thinking.
What do you guys think?
I don't know.
Non-believers.
Was this right before the Rays? Like we went into Tampa, or was this right after?
I can't remember exactly when we did this.
I think it was right before. Yeah, because the Rays series, I was away that week.
Okay.
So I think we did these picks right before.
Okay.
So this was right before the Rays series and everything really turned around. So who wins the AL East? Stan said the Orioles. You and I said the Rays.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Stan's going to sweep.
He might, yeah.
Not the World Series does me in.
If the Orioles make the playoffs, we know they will be in the playoffs. Who starts game 1 of a playoff series? None of us said Kyle Bradish. Glenn, you said John Means.
We don't respect Kyle Bradish.
I know, exactly.
What's wrong with us?
That was the point. That was the point I was
We don't respect Kyle Bradish. How's the rest of baseball supposed to?
Do you want to know?
he said Gibson, didn't he?
He did say Kyle
of course he said Kyle Gibson.
Kyle Gibson,
yeah.
truther.
And I said Means. Who did you say?
I said Dean Kramer.
I mean, they're all technically still.
Unless
technically, they're all still alive, but
yeah.
you know.
Who will be the MVP? The Orioles MVP. You two said Felix. I said Adley.
I think we're gonna go for 3 there.
For 3 as well. We'll hide, and then this is the one I'm not sure what else.
But that's a bummer because we would have been right if Felix Bautista hadn't gotten hurt.
Will Hyde be manager of the year? I said no. I guess I.
Who did you think was going to be manager?
I was thinking the
of the
Rays
year?
were still going to win the division, and I was going to think it would be Kevin Cash.
Okay.
You both said he will, and
yeah, pretty clear that he's going to win
looks like
manager
he will.
of the year.
World Series matchup in winter. Glenn and I had the Braves over. Glenn had over the Astros. I had Braves over the Rays.
And I said the Orioles and the Reds, and the Reds were going to win.
And you said the Reds were going to win. Who are not eliminated. They are in. I think the playoffs ended today.
I'm eliminated.
Not great. Not great. But I think you pocketed enough points that you're probably safe. You're probably
the World
safe.
Series thing should count more points.
Oh, you want more points for that?
No, I mean
for us,
more-
yeah.
no,
I'm
for
not
you
gonna.
guys.
I'm not gonna change
Well, I
the
think
rules
we
after
get,
we played
you
the
know,
game.
You get a point for each team being in it, and then I guess you
Yeah,
get
another
point
point for the winner. Yeah,
So
100%.
3 possible points.
100%.
In that one. And all the teams we picked are alive, so.
Yeah, they are. That's true.
So is everybody else.
That's correct. All right, when we come back in, we'll get a tidbit, we'll get tubular, and then we'll chat with the Hall of Famer, James Lofton, to wrap up the show in the week here on GCR. Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The Maryland 5-Star returns to iconic Fair Hill October 19th to 22nd, marking the next chapter in Maryland's equestrian tradition. Best described as the triathlon of horse eventing, you won't want to miss this thrilling sport. Enjoy a fall festival with local fare, retail vendors, and tons of family fun. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront with vibrant small towns and accommodations to suit every desire. It's the place to be in October. Visit Maryland5star.us for tickets.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand. Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the eastern shore where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org. The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, September 26th at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
All electronic tolling is here to stay in Maryland, and DriveEasyMD.com helps you cruise a little easier. We're Maryland's tolling resource, home to EasyPass, pay-by-plate, and video tolling. It's never been easier to pay your way. DriveEasyMD.com will keep you moving.
Make sure you're tuned in every Tuesday for PressBox fantasy football analyst Joe Serpico to get you ready for your Waiver Wire Wednesday, brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. And if you have other fantasies you want fulfilled, subscribe to Glenn and Jeremy Kahn's OnlyFans page at... Wait, are people supposed to know about that?
Back in here on GCR, Stan the Fan Charles with us as we're winding down. For a Friday edition of the program, if you have not picked up this print issue of PressBox, still have a couple of weeks left in order to get it. It is at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find PressBox. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. Bo Smolka did a great job on this cover story, all about the contract era now for Lamar Jackson. Again, go pick up this print issue of PressBox, available right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms. Stan.
Yes, sir.
I feel like there was one other thing that you and I needed to cover, and now all of a sudden, as I say it, I'm blanking on this happened to me twice. I am starting to worry about my age. I am starting to worry about my brain.
You get on the other side of 40 now.
I am really starting to worry about how this is impacting me, because I literally was like, by the way, who was the prospect the Rays called up today?
Good question. I saw it. What was his name?
Oh God, what, Cimarino or something?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. And they called him up from Double-A.
Yeah.
Seems very aggressive at the end of the season to try to push, to try to win the division.
Caminero? No. Yes, Junior Caminero.
Junior
Caminero.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about what's his story.
Everybody's got him in, like somebody's got him in every league, as a ultra player.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So they're calling him up
Very
to try to
highly
finish up
The
this,
number 6 overall prospect.
this year at between single A and double A, 324, 384, 591, 31 home runs and 94 RBI. So
that's pretty good.
Would not be up.
Productive.
Would not be up if not for Wander Franco.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. 100%.
That's why they're willing to take the risk.
And look, they've done this before. They've been aggressive with promoting guys at the end of the season and bringing young players into a playoff push, and it has had a history of working out fairly well for them over the years. So apparently he's only listed as 157 pounds officially, but ESPN says he's more like 215 pounds. What a wacky bit. Yeah, like what a wacky bit to leave him listed at the same weight as he was once upon a time. All right, want to go ahead and do a tidbit? Want to go there? Tidbit of the day. Tidbit of the day is brought to you today by the Tyus Bowser Show, which returns this coming Tuesday night. We will be at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. Hope that you can join us live for a taping of the Tyus Bowser
And
Show.
there'll be a special guest
There will,
there.
of course, be and not just Rita, but a special guest who's a Ravens player for sure.
Like a non-hot.
Well,
guest.
yeah, wait a second. I don't want to take anything away from whoever his special guest is. I'm trying to think of who the more handsome members. You know what? This is a conversation for a different day. We'll be there on Tuesday night at the Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North for the Tyus Bowser Show. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. Find out more, PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser.
The Braves have now won 24 straight games when their starting pitcher goes at least 6 innings of work, which breaks a tie with the 1935 Cubs and the 1931 Philadelphia Athletics for the longest single-season streak since the mound moved to its current distance. However, they do take a blow as Max Fried just got placed on the IL with a blister.
It's all wide open again, baby.
Yeah, it is. Got put on. He missed like 2 or 3 months at the beginning, or 2.5 months at the beginning of this, early in the season with the same thing. So that could be a big blow for the Braves. But so far, they when their starting pitchers go deep, they win.
Didn't he get hurt in the Oriole game? Like he started the game against the Orioles, and then that's when he got hurt.
Was that when it was?
Sounds right.
Yeah, and then he missed 2 months. But yeah, Braves, good starting pitching. We talked about it last night, but Jose Ramirez stole his 200th career base earlier this week on Monday, and then last night he stole his 201st career base, and he joins now a list of 4 active players with 200 career home runs and 200 stolen bases. They did throw the graphic up last night. I had it before, but I was saving it for, I don't know, when I needed it.
And how many players is it?
It's 4, so 3 more, including...
3 more in addition to Ramirez.
Mm-hmm.
And that's current players?
Yes, active players.
All right, so...
It's got to be Ronald Acuna.
No,
not at 200 home runs yet.
Okay.
Or does he have 200 stolen bases?
I'd be surprised if he didn't have 200 because he had 50 this year. Like I'd be surprised if he hasn't gotten there.
Yeah, but like that was.
Yeah, I guess he's still young in his career. That's a good point. Boy, that is Bryce Harper.
Not Bryce Harper.
200 stolen bases is so much more than you realize it is. Like
especially in this era. Well, now we're probably in a revived stolen base era, but the past 15 years.
Boy, Is Andrew McCutchen still active?
Andrew McCutchen is still active. Oh, I guess he did tear his Achilles, so that will probably end his career. But he is considered still active as of this season. So he's on the list. He's on the list.
Who's on the list?
McCutchen.
I'm going to guess that Paul Goldschmidt is on the list.
Paul Goldschmidt's not on the list. I know he is sneaky with his stolen bases, but I don't think he's quite to 200 yet.
I guess we should guess Trout.
Yes, Mike Trout, of course, is on this list. 200.
Is there any chance that Miguel Cabrera stole a ton of bases when he was younger?
There is not. There's not a good chance.
But a good try.
I mean, we got to throw somebody out. We got to guess somebody.
Acuna's at 159 and 175. 175 stolen bases, 159 home runs.
He did have 175.
Give him a year.
He's got to be on this list, just not yet.
Nolan Arenado didn't steal the bases.
No, he did not.
I'm starting to think it's got to be somebody that we either don't realize is still active or
we the Orioles saw him earlier this week.
Oh, Altuve.
Jose
Altuve. Yeah, we should have gotten
McCutchen,
that.
Trout, and Ramirez. You want another one or?
Okay, if it doesn't take very long.
Oh, yeah, it shouldn't.
That was a good
one. Corbin Carroll becomes has the 13th individual season now of 25 home runs and 50 stolen bases. Of course, the first rookie to do it as well. We've done this tidbit already, so I wanted to flip it, see if there was ever a guy who had 50 home runs and 25 stolen bases in a season, and no one has ever done it. But a couple guys have had 24 stolen bases, and there have been 7 guys to have 15 stolen bases in a 50 home run season.
50 home runs, 17 stolen bases.
15 stolen bases.
15 stolen bases.
Brady Anderson.
Brady Anderson is on
that
this
makes
list.
sense.
One of 7.
Sense. Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds is not on the list.
I guess he only had. I keep forgetting he only had 150 home run season. That's the goofiest thing ever.
Did George Foster steal that many bases?
No.
Jose Canseco.
Not Jose Canseco.
Sammy Sosa.
Sammy Sosa is on this list in 1998 when he had 66 homers. Stole 18 bags.
Home run guys.
Bagwell?
Not Bagwell.
Not Bagwell. The way you said not Bagwell.
Biggio never had 50 home runs.
No, not Biggio.
Beltran?
Not Beltran.
I don't know if he had 50 home runs.
50 home runs. Josh Hamilton.
Not Josh Hamilton.
Did he ever? He didn't.
I don't know if he had a 50 home run season or not. Giancarlo Stanton.
Not Giancarlo.
Would have been Mike Stanton at the time, probably, if he had done it. John Proctor wants to guess Aaron Judge.
Aaron Judge last year is on this list. He had 16 steals.
I did not realize that he stole 16 bases last year.
In his MVP season.
Griffey.
Ken Griffey is on this list twice.
That would be Ken Griffey Jr.
Right, not. I don't think Ken Griffey Sr. ever had that type of season. A-Rod.
A-Rod, he had 24 stolen bases, so he was almost in that 25-50 club. But in 2007, he had 24 steals.
Are we still guessing?
Yes, we are.
Mike Schmidt.
Not Mike Schmidt.
Sorry, Proctor. Proctor guessed both A-Rod and Griffey right after that.
2 more.
50 home runs.
They both played in New York when they did this.
In New York. Mickey Mantle?
Not Mickey Mantle.
Reggie Jackson.
Not Reggie Jackson. Longer ago.
Roger Maris?
Not Roger Maris. Even before that.
Did Babe Ruth steal 15 bases?
Babe Ruth.
Well, that's the most stunning thing I've ever heard in my life.
He stole 17 bases.
What in the world?
In 1921. And then in 1955, this guy stole 24 bases.
In what year?
What did I say? 1955.
1955.
Yeah.
This is a Yankee?
No, he played in New York. He
played in
Willie Mays.
Willie Mays.
Willie Mays.
24 stolen bases.
But did Babe Ruth...
Proctor guessed him too. Proctor,
really?
I'm sorry. You did great. You did a tremendous job.
But did Babe Ruth pass the agility test?
Yeah, right. He could have been in the Baltimore County Police Department.
Yeah, maybe the pitchers were just being nice to him, saying, you know what? That maybe could have been a double. Just letting him steal.
Did he steal all those bases against the Orioles?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Against he faced CNL Perez and Felix Batista.
Gosh.
And if you want to pass the agility test, then you need to show up for the Baltimore County Police Department's next hiring event, October 28th. It's a trunk or treat community event at the Public Safety Building, 700 East Joppa Road in Towson. You can do the hiring process in its entirety, the agility test, the written test, and You can go through the application process right there on the spot. Members of the specialized units will be there in attendance for you to find out more about potential career paths within the police department and just have an opportunity to interact with the Baltimore County Police and also get some candy for the kids at the trunk or treat. 410-887-4584 or 410-887-5521 to find out more. Again, the hiring event coming up on Saturday, October 28th at the Public Safety Building. Tubular is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. All right, now, here's what's coming up this weekend. And I would say that for, like, anything that's local, weather pending, I think is what we need to point out. The good news is the Orioles are on the road, right? So Orioles-Guardians tonight, 7 o'clock on Masson 2. Dean Kramer and Shane Bieber. Tomorrow, 6 o'clock on Masson 2. John Means and Cal Quantrill. Sunday afternoon, 1:30 on Masson 2. Kyle Gibson and who did you tell me earlier it was? Gavin Williams. Gavin Williams
Left-hander.
For the Guardians. College football tomorrow. Maryland's at Michigan State at 3:30 on NBC. Towson is scheduled to host Norfolk State at 4 o'clock on Monumental Sports Network. We will see, right? Weather pending. Morgan is scheduled to host Albany tomorrow night, 6 o'clock on ESPN+. Stevenson is scheduled to host Widener. I'm not feeling good about that one right now. Not feeling good about a lot of things that are supposed to be happening this weekend. So just weather pending for everything that is on the slate. Everything else, college football-wise, I mean, there's a lot of big games. It's a big game day in college football. Of course, Ohio State, Notre Dame, 7:30 tomorrow night on NBC. Colorado, Oregon, 3:30 on ABC. Ole Miss, Alabama, 3:30 on CBS. It's just big games all throughout the day. You can find the entire slate at glennclarkradio.com. Colts, Ravens, 1 o'clock on CBS Sunday. The late TV game, Fox has Saints, Packers at 1, and then Bears, Chiefs at 4:25. The Sunday night game, what a barn burner. Steelers, Raiders at 8:15. Just what the entire country. Everybody was saying, inject Kenny Pickett v. Jimmy Garoppolo right into my veins. That's what we've asked for as a society. Everything else you
I
can
wonder what
find.
T.J. Watt anytime touchdown will be come Sunday night.
I bet you could get a pretty penny on that. I bet you could. Did you know that the NHL preseason gets underway this weekend, by the way?
Wow.
I feel like their season legitimately ended on Tuesday. Like, the NHL preseason starts tonight, in fact, in Australia.
Sweet.
They're playing at the Rod Laver Arena for some reason. At the Australian Open is where they're hosting that. The Capitals play on Sunday.
The Capitals are playing in
the
Australia?
No, not the Capitals aren't playing in Australia. The Capitals are playing in D.C. on Sunday. The Coyotes and Kings are playing tonight at midnight in Australia.
Is that on TV?
It is on NHL Network if you want to take a look at that for some reason. If you're up, go ahead. Yeah, you can bet on it, I'm sure.
I'll be up.
Don't bet the Coyotes. It's never been a good bet. Even in the preseason, I wouldn't bet
You
the
don't
Coyotes.
know how good they are in Australia.
That's a great point. We've been waiting for this moment.
Coyotes live in Australia.
I thought the NHL did these things during the regular season now, where they played these I thought they were playing like international series in the regular season, but I don't think this is a regular. I don't think
this one
it
will
is.
count towards the regular season.
I'm
and they
pretty
won't start
sure.
until a month later.
I'm pretty sure that it's not the case. Non-sports, anything significant?
Not a whole lot. It is the Continental series premiere on Peacock, which is the John Wick prequel.
Oh, okay.
Which is based in the 70s. It's based on Ian McShane's character.
Who's playing John Wick?
I don't know. I think it might be. I think it's before his.
Oh, okay. All
yeah,
right.
it's just about the hotel. The Continental.
Got it.
Did John Wick pass the agility test?
I bet he did.
I bet he would.
I bet he had no problem with the agility
I'm
test.
thinking.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
It counts toward your agility score if you avoid bullets.
Yes, and kill 500 people in the span of. Yes, I think because one of the parts of the agility test is firing a weapon. I think John Wick handled that part of it just fine.
Yeah. Otherwise, not a whole lot. On tonight on CBS, The Secret Celebrity Renovation. Devontae Adams.
No.
Devontae Adams is renovating.
Anything at all we need to talk about?
No.
Okay, thank you. GlennClarkRadio.com. Find it there.
Have you seen that show? Do you remember Survivor when it first came on the air? Boston Rob.
Oh, Boston Rob was the
Marciano.
best.
I vaguely remember Boston Rob.
Right, he was like a
mean,
jerk that
yeah.
won. He
Not a
snuck
jerk.
past everybody.
He was good
He's
at
got
it.
a show now. My wife is obsessed with
Really?
these redo,
Oh,
redoing
renovation
houses.
shows, yes.
J.B. Smoove was on it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm a big J.B. Smoove.
Renovating his.
Do we know if they even filmed another season of Curb before the strike happened?
I think they did.
Okay, so there could be one of those coming.
Yeah, I think it'll come in the next couple weeks, but I don't know that for a fact. But this show, so Marciano has like a renovation company, and he's on with some cute woman, and they're going to redo J.B. Smoove's grandmother's home.
Okay.
Down in I think it was in North Carolina. And they show up, and the house is off the charts much further than they come to the conclusion that the only way to do this is to tear it all down.
Yeah.
And that's not what the show is.
It's supposed to be renovating a house.
So
exactly
they came
right.
up with an idea of
You're going to ruin the sanctity of Boston Rob renovations or whatever?
Right.
Jeez.
Well, that's not this show. But J.B. Smoove came up with an idea. They bring in they tractor bulldozer it down. He actually drives the bulldozer.
Okay. All right. I'm now you've got me.
But they come up with an idea. Supposedly it's his idea to bring in a mobile home that they're then that they then fix up or something like that.
Okay, I need to know. All right, I might.
He was hosting.
He
was hosting Secret Celebrity Renovation. At least last season, he was.
Oh, that was his show.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was his show, but he was hosting.
Right, I give up. I
couldn't
give
find.
up.
I don't know whether he's hosting this
lost.
show or not.
I'm lost. Go to GlennClarkRadio.com. Find out what's coming up this weekend. If you say so. I gotta watch. I haven't watched the new episode of Wrexham yet. I need to do that. Maybe today I can squeeze some time in. I got Spalding Calvert Hall tonight. Is my game. That's on NLSE Next Level, which I believe you can get on DirecTV. Oh, wow. So that's why I have to wear a button-down shirt.
Oh, that's what this is. Okay.
Yes. The only reason why
Pleated
I'm wearing a button-down shirt, yes, is because I think that's available on TV tonight. Wow. So I got to do a little out. I got to do my hair. It's a whole thing. I really wanted to get a haircut, but I think I'm going to run out of time for that. All right, and that I can cut your you got to take care of that before I go.
$15.
When is when's the rain supposed to start? By the way,
is it supposed to start today?
That's what I don't know. I'm worried, a little worried about that.
See. There's a wind advisory today, so yeah, I guess
don't
you
love
have to
that.
cover up your hair.
Don't love that. All right.
No, it won't start. It won't start until about midnight tonight.
Okay. All right. Hopefully that
maybe 11. We'll see.
I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
How late's the game gonna go? You'll be.
I just don't. I mean, all right, whatever. We'll talk about it later. Okay. All right, very good. Stan, you'll be on with the boys tomorrow morning on the Bat Around.
Yes, sir. That's the plan.
Paul and Zach, 10 to noon tomorrow.
You're afraid you'll melt
because
you're so sweet.
Yeah, thank you. What are you doing? Also, Stan, as he mentioned, Dan Duquette will join them Monday, probably a little bit earlier, a little bit in the afternoon.
I forgot that it was the first night of Yom Kippur.
And at Stan the Fan on Twitter, as always, is how you follow him.
Yep.
At Glenn Clark.
X. Is it X now?
No, we don't do that here. I want to make sure we thank everybody today. Thanks to Chuck Pagano. Thanks to Bo Smolka. Thanks to whoever this is that's calling me. Maybe to tell me there's no game tonight. I'm a little worried about that. And thanks also to James Lofton, who we're about to hear from. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh, my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Project Game Day on Sunday. Then Monday, I don't know. We'll have a show for you. Yes, we'll talk about the Ravens, the Orioles, the whole deal. Thanks, everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, Live Casino and Hotel, the Maryland 5-Star, Baltimore County Police Department, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, Superbook Sports, Dorchester County, the Baltimore Orioles, Birdland Sports, Easy Pass MD, Hartford County, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin, at Griffin_Bass. Follow us at Glenn Clark Radio, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Have a great weekend. Go Birds, go Ravens, go Maryland, go Towson, Morgan, the whole deal. Duke sucks. We wrap up today's show by chatting with the Hall of Famer, James Lofton, right here on GCR. Well, you can catch our next guest alongside Beth Mowins, Jay Feely, and Amanda Renner this Sunday, 1 o'clock, as the Ravens take on the Colts on the NFL on CBS. It is always a pleasure to be joined by the Hall of Famer, James Lofton, who is with us here on GCR. James, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's so good to catch up. Thank you so much for taking the time for us this morning.
Well, it's great being here. Ravens off to a good start, so we're looking forward to the ball game.
James, I am really finding it hard to not get carried away about what the Ravens did last week. And I get it. Like, it's week 2, and let's not get too overwhelmed. But, everything that they have going on injury-wise, to go into Cincinnati, just the fact that the offense looked as sharp as it did, I'm really struggling to not suddenly say, all right, this might be, maybe the best team in the AFC. This might be the team. I'm really struggling to not get carried away about what this team did last week.
Well, it's the early stage, and when you have a team each year, you have to look at like you're raising a child, and you're waiting until this child graduates from college. So this is elementary school. Not that the opponents are elementary opponents, but you just getting started with the season, and you want some growth, and you saw some growth in this team over what you had seen in previous years, I think.
No, I tend to agree with that. And I think the biggest thing is the questions that we had about, hey, what's this going to look like with a new offensive coordinator in Todd Monken and a new system? And, I mean, Lamar Jackson looked like he was an orchestra conductor last Sunday. He looked like he had total command of that offense. Is it fair for us to think that might still be ascending, that if that's what it looked like, as he's only playing his second game in that system, that somehow that might still get better as the year goes on?
Well, I think you have to really credit the offensive line because you were able to run the ball, you were able to pass protect, and I think that's the key thing right there for any quarterback who's standing back in the pocket, to be able to look down the field and find the open receiver.
Now, to your point, I thought it was the absolute best that I have seen this offensive line play. I mean, I thought it was one of the great offensive line performances I've ever seen in Ravens history, particularly given who they were without. James, I wonder, what you made of everything the Ravens did in the offseason to finally kind of take some strides at the wide receiver position, to put weapons on the field for Lamar Jackson, to commit to more of a pro-style offense, and what your expectations were coming into the year because of it, and how you feel about the trajectory of where they are with all of it.
Well, I think what we are watching, and we watched it when Lamar came into the league, that we're redefining what a pro-style offense really is. Because look at the quarterbacks who are coming out of college into the NFL draft, getting drafted earlier. They look more like Lamar than they did Johnny Unitas.
I mean, that's certainly fair. There's no question about that. That said, we know that this was an offense that was more committed to running the ball under Greg Roman, and it feels like they were more willing to open it up now moving forward. And obviously, they have not made this type of commitment at wide receiver, certainly since Lamar Jackson's been the quarterback of the team. How important do you think those steps were for taking a step towards being a Super Bowl contender in a loaded AFC?
Well, I think that perception is also reality. And so when you go out and you acquire talented receivers, former first-round picks, Aguilar, OBJ, you draft Zay Flowers early, you are making a commitment that then works in the plan that you have for your offense.
He is James Lofton, the Hall of Famer. He'll be on the call Sunday, 1 o'clock for Ravens-Colts on CBS. James, how concerned are you about this running back situation in Baltimore without J.K. Dobbins? Gus Edwards and Justice Hill looked pretty good a week ago. There are people that think that maybe they should be in the mix for Jonathan Taylor. We don't know if Justice Hill's going to play on Monday. How concerned are you about no J.K. Dobbins moving forward for the Ravens?
Well, a little bit disappointed for J.K. himself.
Yeah.
When you get injured and you have to work your way back, when you're out a year, when you're watching your teammates do what they need to do, that's always tough, and it's never a situation that you want to put any player in.
James, one of the things that I think concerned a lot of Ravens fans coming into the season was the other side of the ball, right? Was that this was a very un-Ravens-like way to build a defense. And we've seen them already depleted in the secondary. Marcus Williams banged up, Marlon Humphrey banged up. But again, they hung on. They played well a week ago. Is this just the way it maybe works now moving forward for the Ravens, that this is the NFL? In the NFL, you don't build the 2000 Baltimore Ravens defense. In the NFL, you got to win games with your offense and maybe do just enough defensively.
Well, when you look back in history and you see the great teams that the Ravens had on paper, it really was focused on the defense, and they were playing a different style of defense than a lot of other teams around the league. Now it's different. You can't hit the way you used to be able to hit. You can't cover the way you used to cover. So those things are kind of taken away a little bit. And if you can put 24 points on the scoreboard and your defense can hold up, you can win a lot of games. And I think that this is the way that this team is structured. And don't forget, they've still got two pretty good inside linebackers, in Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith.
There's no question. That is the strength, the best inside linebacker duo in football. And those players, Patrick Queen in particular, we knew how good Roquan was. Man, Patrick Queen has really come on. James, on the flip side for Sunday, a Colts team that I think everybody wrote off coming into the season. Clearly, we don't know who's going to be under center. It's not looking great for Anthony Richardson. What, if anything, makes the Colts dangerous on Sunday?
Well, a name that won't be on the field is Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator. And he's fashioned great defenses everywhere he's been. When he was in Seattle, then when he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars as their head coach. So he always has a nice plan coming in. Simple. The front four get after the quarterback. They don't have to blitz a lot. So when you don't have to blitz, you have guys in coverage. And they can put pressure right up the middle with DeForest Buckner, who is one of the better defensive tackles around the National Football League.
You mentioned guys who aren't going to be on the field, and, of course, Gus Bradley will be at the game. The one guy that definitely won't be at the game, of course, is Jonathan Taylor. What do they do there? It's such a more – you brought up the J.K. thing, and I feel like part of what we're all feeling for J.K. is that it comes in concert with what's happening in the league right now at the running back position. And I don't have answers for it because I do get that at some point teams are saying, well, we got to save money somewhere, and – to pay all these quarterbacks, running back looks like the spot where they're trying to do it, but it's certainly unfair to these players who are going out and battling and grinding. What do the Colts do about Jonathan Taylor? At some point, do they simply have to try to move him for whatever they can get?
Well, the money factor was also an issue. Remember when Jimmy Graham was the hot tight end and he didn't want to be classified as just a tight end. He wanted to be a wide receiver because they made a little more money. Maybe it is the running back position where Austin Eckler, who touched the ball over 300 times last year, maybe you would get a category where, okay, how many touches did you have in your position grouping? Because I think that would determine a lot more your value than just an arbitrary number as what people talked about as the running back position. Yeah. So it's tough being a running back now, but it sure beats being a running back from the 70s pay period.
Okay, that's fair. That is fair. You're not wrong about that. Do they have to move on? Do they have to? I feel like there's no way that we're going to get 2 weeks down the road and Jonathan Taylor's just going to walk in and be like, you know what, guys, I've changed my mind. Let's go to work. Yeah. Do they have to deal him?
Well, Cam Akers was in the same pot last year. And he started playing well toward the end of the season. I think he wanted to play well toward the end of the season to up his value. When his value didn't get up, he was still a little bit disgruntled this year, and so he moves on. Who knows what's going to happen? Because in this business, you're here one day, gone the next, and there's no gradual leaving of a team. Nobody says, okay, we're going to cut you in 3 weeks and enjoy your time around your teammates for the next 3 weeks, and then you're going to be gone. It doesn't work that way. 1 week you are a Colt or a Dolphin or a Raven or a Packer, and then the next day you are unemployed.
That is true. That tends to be the way that it works. Just another minute or two here with James Lofton as we get ready for Ravens-Colts Sunday at 1 on CBS. James, I wonder, I mentioned earlier the murderer's row in the AFC. Is it simply is the story, hey, who's going to stay the healthiest and we get to January, or is there a way for one of these teams, whether it's the Ravens, the Dolphins have obviously looked good early, to separate themselves from this insane group of quarterbacks and high-level teams in the AFC?
Well, you can't separate yourself from the high-level teams because they're going to be there at the end, either as divisional winners or wild card participants. And you're right. In the AFC, there are a lot of good quarterbacks and a lot of quarterbacks who are in that upper echelon of pay. So those guys are going to be around when the season is winding down, and you just got to go out and compete against them.
Anyone in particular that, is really jumped off the page at you in the early couple of weeks of you doing games?
Well, we had the Los Angeles Chargers last week when they went in to play the Tennessee Titans, and so we had also watched that game from week one with Justin Herbert, and he's a tremendous talent, but he's kind of sitting there on the outside because you look at their last three ball games that I'm tossing in last year's playoff
the
loss
Jaguars.
to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and so there's a talented guy who may be out of the loop when you talk about who's going to be there at the end.
How do you explain that, Jay? Like, how is it that someone that's that good, they just haven't I don't know, I'm not blaming him. I don't know who to blame. It's so weird that when you have such a talent and seemingly have surrounded him with talent, you haven't been able to do more with it as a team.
Well, over the years, what I've learned is that if you're on offense, you can point your finger at the defense the first couple times it happens. If you're on defense and it's the offense's problem, you point your finger at the offense. The next time, people start pointing fingers at the head coach or the coordinator and different things like that. And then all of a sudden, there's an off-season change. And so when you see these off-season changes, you know that there's been some issues. And sometimes when that head coach goes and the general manager goes, you start anew. But the players remain, especially the high-paid quarterbacks. Very rarely do they move other than a Russell Wilson.
All right. Before I let you go, the list of first-year candidates for the Hall of Fame came out this week, and one of the names that was on it was former Raven Haloti Ngata. And this is a tough one for me because there was a time in Haloti Ngata's career that I said, this guy is a Hall of Fame caliber talent, but I don't know if he had the career that stands up. When you hear the name Haloti Ngata, as someone who is very involved in this process, James, and of course wears a gold jacket yourself, do you think Hall of Famer?
Well, I am one of the selectors, and what I've realized now is how difficult it is to whittle down that list to 5, because we get a thick binder at the end of February with about 135 names in it. And I've often told some friends of mine, hey, look through this and pick out 5 guys. And they get to about number 45, and they've already picked out 5. You still got 90 more guys to go. And so it is a process that is, to me, it's painful when I go through it, because I look at the guys who I thought were great players who don't get the votes, who don't get put in. And there are a lot of great players who are out there sitting on the sidelines. A couple guys from my era that I think were Hall of Famers in Roger Craig and Everson Walls who aren't in. And they're in that senior category now. So Haloti Ngata, great player. You had to learn how to pronounce his name. And when you are good enough, when nobody can read your name the correct way and everybody knows how to say it, you know that you're a pretty good player.
There's no doubt, right? There's no doubt in my mind. But to your point, obviously, it is a really, really loaded group and a lot of great candidates. And as good as Haloti Ngata was, and, 5-time All-Pro, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're rooting for him, obviously, here in Baltimore, but I don't know. All right, Sunday, 1 o'clock on CBS, of course. James Lofton, Beth Mowins, Jay Feely, and Amanda Renner on the call. Ravens-Colts in Baltimore. James, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for spending time with us this morning. I imagine we will be talking to you again as the season goes on and you're getting ready to do another Ravens broadcast. Really appreciate you doing that.
Hey, thanks for the time. I appreciate it.